Welcome in to the I-80 Boys College Football Show. As always, I'm your host and still back-to-back undefeated national champion resident of the show, Christian motherfucking Hunt. And that guy over there is...
I am the Nebraska man tonight, guys. This asshole over here to my left... we didn't know this was going to happen until a couple days ago. And Christian, I got to ask though before we get into this heated debate tonight, how's it been? How's your blood pressure? I'm a little worried about it. How's the weight? How you doing there?
You know, the weight's doing just fine. You know, listen, you can reverse what you do. You can reverse weight, but what you can't do is you can't turn the clock back on Father Time. That is undefeated, Chris, just like my Bulldogs, but you wouldn't know anything about that.
Oh, it's going to be one of these nights, ain't it? It's going to be one of these. This guy came in here. How many beers have you had, Christian? I just got to ask before this show starts.
I'm still playing catch up to you, man. Like I said, I still gotta play catch up. So,
all right, bro. What are we talking about? Where are we going with this first tonight on the show? By the way, thank you guys for coming in. Please smash the like buttons. Helps us out a lot on YouTube. Sometimes these shows are watchable, sometimes they're not. Just depends on how Christian hosts the show. But we're here. We're gonna do this goddamn thing, man.
Well, let's see what the chat wants to talk about here a little bit. Let's see.
What we got here? Holy shit, we got some trash talking between Crixus and Nighthawk. It looks like about talking about sports. This guy calls him a gump. I love it. All right. Holy shit.
Nighthawk says, does GBR stand for Go Be Relevant?
You know what, man? He's got a point. And I'm a Nebraska man. He's not wrong about that part of it. That's for sure.
Well, let's do this. Yeah, exactly. You know, while you guys are filing in the chat here, you want to drop something, we'll talk about it, obviously, before we get started. We'll call roll here. We've got Crypto, Children of the Corn, Mike. Let's see. I think I saw the conservative Huskers here tonight. 4 hours to Lincoln. We've got Crixus. We've got Nighthawk. We got a good little decent show. I think Gators run the East. He dropped in at like 10 o'clock this morning, but as always, the Gators a little too early on most things. That's all good.
Yeah, a day late and a dollar short, as they say.
Damn right, son.
All right.
Well, you know, we're not seeing anything, Chris. Are you?
No, nothing too pressing right now. Let's get into it, dude. I've been waiting for this, man. I've been ready to spank your ass on this topic. We've talked very sparingly about this. I have a feeling tonight is going to be one of those. It's just going to be tough for you, man. That's all I'm going to leave it at. I'm going to let you start. I'm going to shut my mouth because you know how I like to interrupt you all the time.
No, dude, absolutely. Mike says, just curious, how close to your 1K subscribers are you? We're approaching the 300 mark, so we're still trying to get there. Yeah. Still getting there, right? So, I mean, that's all right. All right. I'm ready, Chris, to turn up a little bit here. So, hot take, is the 95 Huskers defense better than 2021 UGA's? I'll go first. I'm going to go first. And when we thought about this, right? This is something we've talked about, I guess, off air here. I guess the question, because again, whenever you throw these things out, you have to have a clear and concise way of measuring. How do you say better, right? And this is what I think of. I think of the scenario in terms of if you put both of these teams, right, or either one of these teams on the same field as 2019 LSU with Joe Burrow, who gives you the best chance to stop them? Who gives you the best chance, again, just from a defensive standpoint here, to win? Right? Chris, I know the argument that you and a lot of fans are going to make, right, is that the 95 Huskers would hold up against any era of football, right? But, dude, let's be honest, all right? This was an era in the 90s was an era where everybody ran the triple option, lined up in the I formation, and 90% of the snaps were under center. All right, I don't think they'd be able to be as dominant as the 21 UGA defense was, man. And let me give you some numbers here to back myself up. All right, this is a historic defense. Goddamn, you're laughing over there. You're getting all bent out of shape. I'm telling you right now. I know you're bubbling and it's building up, but listen to the numbers here. UGA's defense, dude, they only gave up 10.2 points per game, and they did that over the course of 15 games. No running back had a run of more than 20 yards against UGA's first-string defense all year. In 6 games against top 25 ranked teams, Georgia only allowed 1 rushing touchdown. 1. Bama had a streak of 75 games. You know, Bama, as in one of the more premier dynasties in all of college football, had this game of 75-game streak with multiple touchdowns until that title game happened, and Georgia stuffed one of the greatest dynasties to end that streak. Defense had 11 players drafted in a 2-year span, which, let's just be honest, dude, we're 2 years removed from that team. That's pretty damn good, right? And they were drafted pretty high, too. Chris, I'm going to do this for you here, right? I'm going to do this. Right, I'm going to save my best point for my last point here. All right, that is, you take everything I just said into account. All right, in an era where everyone wants to spread you out and go up tempo and get as many plays. That's where it is now, right? They try to get as many plays off as they can on the offensive side of the ball, wear you down, right? And I mean, let's be honest. I think the athletes now are better than they were in the '90s, dude. I mean, I'd say it's not only Georgia's defense was better, but, dude, it's called dominance, right? So I don't understand how we can debate this. And I'm going to say a couple more things here, right? And then I'm going to get to my main point, and I'll let you go, right? Think about this, because I know what a lot of people are going to say. When I think of the 95 Huskers, dude, I don't think about defense. I mean, they were good on defense, don't get me wrong, but I think they were overshadowed by their offense. They were overshadowed by that offense, right? You look at 21 Georgia, they weren't overshadowed by their defense or their offense. We talked about that before we got on air. If I asked a casual college football fan to name me one player on that team's defense, I don't think they could do it. And it's not just because of recency bias. I just literally don't think they could name a single player from that 95 Nebraska team's defense, an average fan. Lastly, all right, this is the last thing we'll do here. I want you to take a look at this, Chris. I want you to take a look at this. I'm gonna give some of you guys some visual aids here for you. This was your starting defensive tackles in that year, 1995. I believe these are the Peters brothers, right? So the bigger one in here, I believe it was 98, 95. I think it was 95 right here. He was 6'3", 295 pounds is what they listed him as, okay? I want you to keep this in mind. This is the guy running the trenches there for you at Nebraska. You should take a look at this.
Oh, I'm fucking looking.
Oh, I know you're looking. Hold on one second here. All right. This gentleman right here, this very small gentleman right here, is a normal-sized human being. The guy next to him is 6'3", 315 pounds. So he's, again, about as big as your defensive tackles were. And then this big son of a bitch right here is Jordan Davis, right? He makes this guy, who is, again, about as big as your defensive players, look small. He also happened to run a 4.78 40-yard dash, so good luck.
Are you done?
Oh, I'm done. Yeah, go on. My case rests.
Okay, 2 things. Put the fucking crack pipe down, for one. This might be the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. You're sitting there trying to compare size, right? I'm just going to start from the back half of this shit because I couldn't take this seriously if I wanted to. I understand that you're a Georgia man, right, Christian? Let's be honest, right? You're a Georgia. You were born and raised there. Your mom was a Falcons cheerleader. I respect the shit out of you for standing up for your team, and I get that. And it's hard to debate a Georgia man because you guys have won 2 in a row. Unfortunately, though, for you, you're talking to a guy that does remember the 90s football, and we won 3 out of 4. You guys do have a chance, as I've said, to win 3 in a row, which I'll be honest with you would be an incredible feat. I'm not taking anything away from Georgia. I'm sure as shit not taking anything away from that defense. And I'm sure as shit, Christian, not taking anything away from you. But I will say you gave up 41 points to Alabama that year. You guys were not undefeated in 2021. You gave up 41. And you played them in the national title, and I believe you gave up, 18? Did you not? Which wasn't bad. I'm not saying that title game was bad. I'm happy for the Georgia man. I'm happy as fuck that you guys had a great year, won your first national title in 40-some years. I was rooting for you. Trust me. I'm not a Gump. I don't root for Bama. But this notion, this recency bias, because you think that most people can't come on here and we're talking to a younger generation, doesn't remember Nebraska. Well, unfortunately, Christian, I do. I was 10 years old when Nebraska won in 1994 against Miami. I was 11 when we won, it in 95 and destroyed the Gators in their number 2 offense with the run and gun or fun and gun with Steve Spurrier, Christian. Mm-hmm. I was there, 65-24. And mind you, that national title game, we had half our third string in by the second half. It was an absolute, it was ridiculous. I'm going to leave it there and be nice. But to even get to this point, and I see what you're doing here, you're bringing up the stats. You said Georgia gave up 10.2 points per game on defense. That's the question. That's the topic tonight. That's great. Yeah, it is. It's awesome. It's a hell of a stat. It's amazing. But here's what you're not figuring in, because you think Nebraska or any team that played in the 90s, Christian, was a bunch of plumbers, electricians, and carpenters on fucking defense. You run the triple option. Oh, it's a fullback give. It's a fullback give left and right. And, once in a while, you'll hit the play action pass. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong about it. But guess what, Christian? Nobody can fucking stop it. Nobody. And it worked. It worked for 3 out of 4 then.
Okay. So then answer me this. Answer me this then.
Riddle me something.
Why does nobody run the triple option anymore, Chris? If it was so dominant and it was so prevalent, why does nobody after the year probably, I don't know, the early 2000s really run the triple option anymore? Riddle me that.
Because football's evolved, Christian. It's evolved. You're right.
Thank you.
You dummy. The game is always evolving. The points per game, yes, have gone up. But who's to say that's just all offense? Defenses are softer now. Look at the Pac-12, the Big 12. Jesus, we talk about this every week. I got mental health issues after listening to you talk for 5 to 10 minutes about the 2021 Georgia defense. And I'm not saying they're not good or not great all time. They are. That team was amazing. And you got tons of studs in the NFL. I believe, Christian, 14 to 15 of those guys are in the NFL, and there's time to tell and see how good they're going to be. Well, that Nebraska team had just as many as well end up in the NFL. I can name a few. Peters brothers, fucking Troy Dumas, Dante Jones, Baron Miles, Tyrone Williams, Christian Peter, Doug Coleman, Tony Veland, all these guys. Mike Minner, who played literally 18 years for the freaking Panthers, was all pro almost every year. I could talk about this all day, but you're right. You did say one thing out of this whole freaking ridiculous comment that you made, that our offense overshadowed our defense. Of course it did. We averaged 53.2 points per game, Christian. 53. We scored literally 65 times that year. And you're going to tell me, yep, it was triple option, boring football. Your nose guard was only 285 pounds. Yeah, fuck that, man. It didn't matter. They couldn't stop it then. They couldn't stop it in the 80s. They couldn't stop it in the 90s. I honestly think if Tom Osborne was still here, he probably could have ran the triple option for a few more 4 more years later until you get into the early 2000s. Yes, athletes evolve. That's the whole game of football, just like basketball, just like anything. Everything is evolved, Christian. I don't want to hear the excuse that a lot of people played football back in the 90s with triple option. Colorado, Oklahoma, hell, Miami, and some of the southern teams threw the ball. Huh? But they still ran the shit out of the football. So your point on this Georgia thing, and that the athletes are better, of course they are. I mean, any dummy knows that. Come on, man.
Well, I would say you're making my point for me, Chris. I mean, just said, yes, you are. You just said the athletes are better, and okay. So here's the reality, right? I've both played in the triple option, literally under center, wing T, power I, triple option offense, right? And have played defense against it for a long time, dude. So I can tell you right now, as a defense, like playing against it on a defensive standpoint, this is why I really believe it, right? If you're decent at defense, it's really not that hard to stop. It's literally just a man on a man. Okay? Yes, you are making reads, but if you're halfway decent at playing defense, you can react to it. All right? If you've got decent athletes that can float to the ball, it's just man-on-man assignments, right? That's the first part of it. It's much harder to run the offense because you're having to make quick decisions in a moment's notice, right, than it is to probably react to it and play sound fundamental ball. Now, I understand where you're saying, hey, nobody could stop it, and I will say this. It was impressive you guys put up all those points. But this isn't about, right, this wasn't about who's the better team, 95 Nebraska or 21 Georgia. It's about who had the better defense. And I think a lot of people in our chat, obviously very biasly, don't watch other teams in college football. They only like to keep it parked over at One Memorial Stadium, and they find it really hard to be able to tell you something of relevance. We have people that fucking think the Big Ten is better than the SEC, Chris.
I'm not disagreeing with that statement. You're right. No, we know the SEC. But again, I think you're totally wrong on this.
Well, listen, I will say this, right?
Listen.
Yeah.
I've been listening this entire time, and I think it's insane. I think you're crazy to tell me. No, listen to me. No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't buy Christian. I'm gonna stop you on that point. I don't buy the fact that you think that just because there's better athletes today that defense is better. No, that's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. We can't take the 95 Huskers defense and ever put them in a vacuum and play in today's era, and vice versa. Who to say is your fucking defense wouldn't have been able to adapt to the option style of play that was in the Big 10 or Big 12 back then, or Big 8. You can't say that. We can't do that. It's just like trying to compare Michael Jordan to LeBron James. As much as I think Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time, it's a different era. We can't compare eras. And I know this question is comparing eras. So just wait a second over there. I'm not saying that, but I think you're freaking ridiculous to say that, you guys had a bunch of scrubs, couldn't play. Guy, your nose guard ran a 5.5. Fuck that, dude. It didn't matter. That's the thing. Why would, if that mattered, how come that Florida, this is going to be a perfect example for you to shut your ass up over there, that you think Florida that year, who had Steve Spurrier, who was all about the run and gun. Let's be honest, Steve Spurrier reinvented football back then. Spread you out, throw the ball quickly, get it out quickly. Dana Warfel, you won a Heisman. They won the title in 96 after us. How come that's no different really than what the hell they're fucking doing today? And Florida had athletes back then, Riedel Anthony and all those guys, all those studs back then. But it didn't work against Nebraska, bro. And there's a reason for that. And I don't think that if Georgia's offense in 2021 had to play against the 95 Huskers, no, I'll take 95 Huskers all fucking day, dude. All day. And you're going to sit there and go, well, yeah, Jesus Christ is right. You better go find a church, pray, and tell him to, tell you to get off the fucking crack pipe, because that's all I've been seeing out of you lately. Now, you know what? Next week, guys, next week, Stetson Bennett's the greatest quarterback that ever played college football. I'm waiting for a Christian. That's the next, or Todd Gurley, greatest running back ever, right? That's where you're going with this stuff, man. I get it. You've won 2 in a row. I appreciate it. I understand that the 2021 defense is arguably probably a top 10 defense of all time. I get it. But if you think they're better than 95 Skurs and you want to bring up points per game, that stat is skewed, Christian. It's completely skewed because Nebraska's offense and first-string defense was out of the game 90% of the time by the time the second half started.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Somebody's conservative Husker says our O-line was a brick wall. 21 UGA couldn't have broke through either. Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's pretty good. I guess the 6'5" guy that we just showed you there, or 6'7", almost 400-pound guy, wouldn't have broken through and fucking ate Tommy Frazier's lunch. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Listen, let me ask you a question, Chris. And we're going to keep it on this. Who, in your opinion, who is the best offense of all time in college football?
The best offense of all time in college football?
Yeah.
Woo. The best that I've seen in my lifetime is either 95 Skurs, 2019 LSU. I could probably throw 2018 Clemson in there. I mean, they destroyed that Alabama team. I'll put them up there. I didn't say Georgia either. I didn't say.
Well, I'm not saying Georgia, dude. I will tell you right now, Georgia. It's not even a debate. Georgia doesn't even have probably a top 50 all-time greatest college football offense. I will say that. right? There's nothing wrong with that. They got some great players, right? But offensively, I'm not going to go there. Now, defensively, right, we've had some damn good defenses. So has Nebraska. My main point with this is, Chris, one of the big things that I'm looking at this is I would say it's 2019 LSU, right? We've talked about this. I would say 95 Nebraska is right up there. They're two different eras of football, right? And you got it. Like I would say Georgia, as far as what they did defensively, they're probably about as much of a throwback on defense as you're going to find in the modern era, next to Bama and some of these other teams.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that statement. I would put you up there with what 2009 Alabama defense was freaking super crazy good. To interrupt you and not scream into the mic so I don't piss everybody off in the chat, but I agree with you to a certain extent about that, but I know where you're going with this. But okay, then stick 2019 LSU offense in the 90s. Teams tried that then, Christian. Florida tried it, and it worked. Success-wise, wins and losses. But boy, when you played the Skurs in 95, holy shit, it didn't work. That's my point. It's like, I'm not even talking about Nebraska's offense right here. I'm talking about strictly their defense. I'm not saying that LSU wouldn't score in a game like that, but they would also have to adapt. So what's the halfway point between 95 and 19? We're looking at what, 2000?
Probably what, 09, 08? Yeah. So
right.
Basically Texas, Bama.
Right. And I still think that defense would still be enough to keep us in a game if you're talking about wins, losses. And Alabama or LSU's defense in that game, I know we're talking about their defense, was not, they couldn't even, nobody would stop Nebraska's 95 offense. So that's a whole different scenario for another day. Because their offense is regarded, in my opinion, 95 Nebraska's the best fucking football team I've ever seen play. And that has nothing to do with me being a Nebraska fan. Because I think that 2019 LSU team is just ridiculously good. And I'm not taking away against the 2015 Bama team, the 2009 Bama team. I won't take anything away against goddamn Texas in 2004. I mean, USC's another one with Reggie Bush and those guys. I'm not trying to get into best team of all time, which I know you're not either.
Yeah.
But I just think that this notion of when people say, well, athletes are better, of course they are. There's better training. There's better, workouts. There's more medical things going on as far as taking care of players and concussions and exactly. I mean,
and I will say, you said what?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, hey, I'm calm now, dude. I'm trying to circle back to this and see it from your point of view. And one thing I will give you is there's a big distinction now compared to the 90s, right?
Right. No, there is. But my point, when you also on top of that, though, when you say a 6'7", 400-pound monster running a 4'9" or whatever, well, we could do that in the NFL. I mean, there's guys that are 6'6", 6'7", could throw the ball a mile. And then I see Drew Brees out there a couple years ago slinging the ball and, held a bunch of records. I mean, we could go about size. We could talk about size. I'm not saying that Jordan Davis he's a monster. That guy's a freak. He's a freak. And yet I will say this, I'll give you benefit of the doubt as far as like players go on your side is because a lot of those guys are in the NFL and they're very young right now. And I swear 80% of them play for the Eagles.
Damn right, son.
Yeah. I mean, which is just hilarious how that works out for the casual Georgia and Eagles fan that I call you a casual fan. It just works out for you. But my point overall, though, this is a hard debate to end this debate, I guess, if you will. I'm not going to scream into the mic anymore, but I get fired up about the 95 Huskers just because maybe that's my own, personal bias, but I just think that it's such a hard comparison. And we knew this kind of coming into, not that by the way, guys, we did not talk about this coming into this of what we were going to say. This was all off the rip, but I get fired up about this. Christian's a Georgia man. I'm a Nebraska man. This is authentic. We're not from a different state. So you guys got to believe us on that one. But I mean, overall, Christian, I understand your point. And I will say this before I end my rant here is that 21 defense of Georgia is top 10 easily. They were awesome. I know that. I'm not a dummy. I follow college football. I watch this more than Nebraska. So I'll kick it over to you, Christian, here. And I know we got other parts of the show to do here.
Yeah, and I'll just say this. I mean, really where I was going with this is, you got to look at what happened in the 90s. Like in the 90s and the early 2000s, I mean, it was still more about kids growing up would play all the sports, right? They wouldn't be super they wouldn't be super pushed into one sport like it is now. Now, like, these kids are playing the game from very early ages. They specialize in one sport. They don't play other sports anymore. Especially by the time they get to middle school, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where I think if you take some of those athletes from that 95 team and you brought them into today's age and let them come up, I mean, they'd probably still be just as good, right? I can't say that. The only thing I have but we can't do that though, right? I mean, we don't have a time machine. We don't have the access to be able to do that, right? So all we can do is just kind of look back at it. As far as, Georgia wouldn't have been able to, they said, you guys are saying the big Totino's guy wouldn't break through a corn-fed line of Nebraska 95. Crazy. Yeah, we did it. All right. I mean, we basically did it. All right. It's called Georgia fucking Tech. And you're wondering what it would look like if somebody ran the triple option at today's level. They did it for years. Google Paul Johnson, Georgia Tech. They did it successfully in the 2000s. All right.
Who's not to interrupt you? Who's the Navy guy?
Yeah.
The Navy.
Oh yeah, I can't remember that. I can't remember his name. Yeah, I think he's at B. He left for BYU a couple years back.
Option. It just doesn't work. And I think who's that right there? Crixus dropped in the chat, said that it wouldn't work. Athletes are just too good. I'm not saying that you can't run it. Sorry, Christian, to take away from your.
No, you're good.
Just we're going into chat now, but I mean, there's a time and a place for it because it's very unorthodox and nobody knows how to kind of defend it still, but you couldn't run it predominantly as your main offense. There's no way. There's no way. You know what I mean, Christian? I mean, Georgia Tech has tried it forever. Paul Johnson, I think, like those guys, like it just doesn't work. If you prepare for it and have a week to prepare for it as your main offense, it just doesn't work. He tried, Georgia Tech tried, Navy tried. It does work for an extent, depending on the defense you're playing against. The defenses are too good. And this is even me saying this as a Nebraska fan, and I love the triple option. It was awesome to watch at its prime. But athletes now, Jesus Christ, you got guys that are linebackers running faster than running backs and receivers nowadays.
Yeah, and like I said, Jordan Davis, dude, I'm not to keep bringing him up, but that dude ran a fucking 4.78. You remember when that happened? Like, NFL Network ate that shit up. They were like, he ran faster than Patrick Mahomes, and they started listing all these other players, and I just started thinking, like, that's a scary son of... Like, I'm a big guy. I'm probably about as big as the guy in the middle of that photo, but that guy...
You're right about that. I'm not going to ever debate the fact that there aren't better athletes in today's game than 25, 30 years ago. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The technology, the health, the safety, all that is played into that too. But there weren't guys. I mean, unless you're talking about Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders, some of these freak guys that came along that played skill positions. There weren't linemen running that kind of stuff. There weren't linemen, Larry Allen, some of those guys that were benching 800 pounds back then. But nowadays, DK Metcalf does 225 for 40. I mean, this is a different world now.
Yeah.
And that's DK. I mean, he's one of my favorite players. Like it's a different world. Technology, strength and conditioning is a whole different thing. So it's hard to compare offenses, defenses, everything, especially when you go back that far. It sucks because like the most relevant offense we're always going to talk about is 2019 LSU. But let's give it 20 years and see what happens now. And somebody will bring up 2019 LSU. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It'll be. This is just how I love this about sports, though. I could do this in basketball too. This is what this is about. I mean, you guys aren't wrong about some of the stuff you guys are posting in chat. Some of it's a little ridiculous, but I get it as a Nebraska man. I love it, but also you got to be able to evolve, man. And what's real is what's real. And we watch a lot of other football here than just our favorite teams.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, you're not wrong. And I will say this. I know we keep kind of doing this because I keep thinking of more stuff too. Like if that game's played in the 90s. Dude, chop blocking.
Yeah, completely legal. Yeah, yep.
I mean, maybe there's a I could see an argument there a little more for the Nebraska side of it, and especially in some of those offenses that they had back then. Like you said, it just depends on what era it's played in, right? And that kind of probably would determine a lot there. So, all righty. Chris, let's finish the segment here, as I used to say, finish the drill. Hey man, good shit there, dude. I feel like we were able to give each other a lot of shit. We ended up circling back. Right now, we can hug and sing "Kumbaya" and all that other bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, I know you're into that kind of ass grabbing type of stuff, but that's not me. I'm still going to bury on a couple of these topics tonight. So, let's go. So,
all right, so we'll kind of look here. Another hot take for us: Michigan wins the Natty this year. Chris, what do you think?
Oh, baby. I came out a couple of weeks ago. I know not that my opinion really matters in a national landscape, but this is the year for Michigan, truly. I mean, I'm going to start this off real quick, Christian, if you give me a couple minutes here, just to, not that you've been interrupting me. It's usually me interrupting you, but I'll say this about Michigan. I actually think this is Jim Harbaugh's final year, personally. Just going out on a limb. Maybe I'm the first to say it, but he's been looking at the NFL. He's beat Ohio State, right? The Bucknuts for the last couple of years here. He did that and made the Michigan man happy. J.J. McCarthy, though, is the biggest, the main factor to me. If he improves from what he did last year, and he had some really good games last year. He beat out Cade McNamara. Obviously started the season, pissed Cade off. He went over to Iowa. Watch the Hawkeyes this year. But that's their big question mark. Michigan is physical. I mean, they are dominant on both sides of the ball. Dominant, completely dominant. I don't even have to bring up the backfield. Donovan Edwards, Blake Corum. Holy shit. They don't get any better than the 1-2 punch that they got over there. I think if J.J. McCarthy can improve, and he showed that he can run the ball out of the pocket, he's a good athlete. My biggest thing with him, Christian, this year, and this is why I think they're going to win the Natty, if he can complete 65% of his passes, or 60% of his passes, which I know is a stretch for some quarterbacks, that they're going to win this national title. I think their defense is a lot better. I know the last time we fucking saw them, it was against TCU. It was a shootout. It was ugly. It looked like Michigan hadn't played in a month, which they hadn't. I'm going to throw that game out the window. I know. And some people are going to laugh me off the internet, especially the Ohio State man. But to me, it comes down to J.J. McCarthy this year. We look at this schedule, they're going to, I honestly think their biggest games is going to be, they're going to have a game in between the Penn State and the Ohio State game before that. Somebody's going to play them close, whether it's Minnesota, whether it's maybe Nebraska's, 4-0 coming into that game. It is at home here in Nebraska. And I'm not saying any of these teams are going to beat them, but I truly think that at Penn State game, if they get over that one, you got Maryland. We talked about Maryland last week, Christian, or this week. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're an awkward, unorthodox style team to play at Maryland. Maryland played Michigan closer than anybody did last year, other than TCU, obviously. Weird game. Then the Ohio State game, right? And I'm not going to get into who wins that or whatever. You guys know that I got Michigan beating Ohio State this year again for the third straight time.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that their success to me is not their defense is going to be great. It's always elite. It has been under Harbaugh. It's going to be great. They're going to be able to run the ball. They probably got the second best and biggest offensive line in the country this year again. Can J.J. McCarthy take a step forward? If he does and not turn the ball over when he needs to roll out of the pocket and throw the ball, this team to me is unstoppable, basically. There's only a few handful of teams in the country that I think that could play with them this year if things go the way that I think they do. And this is my opinion, not the coaches poll or the AP poll or some of these big YouTubers like On3 and Josh Payton, these guys. I think Michigan's just going to be tough this year. I really, truly do. And overall, I do. I think they win the national title this year. I think if they don't, they come super close, and they need to win a game under Harbaugh. I mean, honestly, in the playoffs, they've lost the last couple of years. But if they do get there, and let's say they lose to a Georgia, or let's say they lose to an LSU or somebody like that, I still think Harbaugh's out the door. So I think this is make or break overall for Michigan this year, Christian. This is just my stance. You know me, I'll put my foot in the ground, man. If I'll admit when I'm wrong, I have no problem doing that, coming on there and saying that I'm wrong. But I think Michigan this year is super tough. This is a team in the Big Ten I think is just honestly, I don't want to say far superior because the Big Ten has a couple really good teams in Penn State and Ohio State. I think Illinois is going to be a very good team this year. I think Wisconsin is going to surprise some people. I think, Minnesota is not a bad team by any means. I think Nebraska even, holy shit, it's going to be a decent team this year. But Michigan to me is I just think with the success they've had the last couple of years, Christian, JJ McCarthy coming back. I'm huge on that. The run game, they have two of the top 5 backs on the same team, and that massive offensive line. They control the ball so well, and that's why they dominate like they do. That's why they make the Ohio State defense look like a bunch of pussies out there the last 2 years. And it screwed the Ohio State man right now. You guys can't stop a nosebleed on defense. You haven't shown it the last 2 years. So Penn State is actually kind of probably the biggest question mark for me this year, because Penn State plays a very similar type of ball. Drew Alder's the guy for them. If he steps up, who's highly recruited, Christian, as you know, that game I think could be a dogfight, and it is at Penn State. So I'm going to leave it there, Christian. I want to hear your thoughts on Michigan this year. I know me and you have relatively similar thoughts, I think, on this. We haven't talked about Michigan a lot. I'll kick it over to you, buddy.
Yeah, man. So, this to me, Chris, for the longest time on this show, I've tried to take the Ohio State man's side on everything, right? And I've kind of gone at you, and we've kind of gone back and forth about this. But, listen, I think I'm starting to finally see the light a little bit here. We might actually agree on something.
Oh, my God. Holy shit.
And that is, dude, look, they might finally be able to pull off, they've got the best shot they've had in a long, long time at Michigan to win a national title this year, right? Just because they get back enough production and weapons, kind of like you touched on, right? To not only be dangerous in the Big Ten, but also to match up really well against anybody in the country. I mean, Chris, and let's kind of take a look at who could potentially get in the way, of them winning a national title. And why I think they have the best shot, right? So Bama, we know they're not going to be as good this year. We've touched on that enough on this show, right? UGA, my dogs, right? And this is kind of part of it here. They have to replace a quarterback. And who's going to be that big piece in the middle to be able to stuff teams that we talk about, right? Jordan Davis, gone. Jalen Carter, Devontae Wyatt, gone. So you got to kind of... Go ahead.
Yeah, I always forget his name. The kid that transferred to USC.
Big Bear Alexander.
Yes. God damn.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Big Bear Alexander gone. So, Georgia's got a chance to lose a couple games this year, right? Clemson. We talked about Clemson. They need to get their offense figured out. We were going back and forth with somebody today, like in the comment section, saying DJ was terrible. You guys didn't watch any of the games last year. Okay. Not only if you watched the games did he look. I mean, he didn't look like Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson or Taj Boyd for that matter, but he wasn't the worst quarterback. And then if you go back and you watch the game against Tennessee, Cade Klubnik threw 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, and they only managed to put up 14 points on what was a garbage Tennessee defense. So Clemson's offense has got a shit ton of work to do. Ohio State replaces a quarterback, and their O-line play might be suspect, and God only knows about their defense, right? It's got some big names, got a lot of star power there, but again, can they step up in big games and play defense? I think they'll be better, but we'll see. And then same thing against USC, right? Like USC is going to be good for a Pac-12 team as the Pac-12 dies out, and Caleb Williams might look elite against everybody else, but let's be honest. Look at what Lincoln Riley-led teams do when they get to the playoffs.
Like Ryan.
So, yeah, they shit the bed. So, you factor all that in. And then, also, outside of those teams we just mentioned, Chris, Michigan has the most playoff experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so especially at crucial positions to make a legit shot here. I'll say this, right? Harbaugh, he might be facing next year a season-long suspension over the whole Burgergate thing. We don't know that yet. Yeah, so this just puts all the pressure on him to win now, because I got a feeling no matter what, he's going to be going to the NFL after this year. So,
no.
Yeah.
No, you're not wrong with this whole take. I think this is an interesting take. I don't think enough people talk about Michigan. Personally, we watch a lot of football. We watch a lot of podcasts. It's with me, I guess, Christian, at the end of the day. I have a question for you while we're on the Big Ten right now.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts again? I kind of want to revisit this before we get into some chat questions and stuff here. We talk about Michigan. We talk about Ohio State. We talk about Penn State. Chris has had a question in here too about Penn State. But I mean, what's your thoughts on Wisconsin again? I guess every time I break down their schedule, I see these guys going 9-3 and 10-2 this year. I know this is kind of off the topic here, but we're in the conference of the Big Ten. I mean, I know you're not as high on them as I am, and I just want to think maybe over the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks to a month here, have you changed your thought process on Wisconsin? You know I'm big on Luke Fickell. You know I love him. I mean, has it changed at all? I'm just throwing this out here real quick, not to take up a ton of time.
No, I mean, again.
Okay. All right.
No, I just haven't really changed my thought pattern on it. Like, I think they'll be all right. Again, do I think that they're going to win the West? And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, yeah, they should win the West. They should win the right." Like it's, but no, to me, I look at the Big Ten West kind of like the Big 12 in that every year the teams you think should do something end up for whatever reason coming out and they have these weird off games, and then some team from nowhere like Purdue or Northwestern, or I'm not saying Northwestern is going to do it this year, right? But, these weird teams like Illinois could be one of those teams this year that comes out of, supposedly nowhere and ends up winning the Big Ten West. So, I don't know, man. I think for me, no, I don't think my thoughts have really changed on Wisconsin. I think, again, it's so funny because we talk about it, right? Florida thinks they've got this gold mine in Graham Mertz. Believe it or not, Graham Mertz was last in just about every statistical passing category against top 25 teams last year.
Right. And
Florida thinks he's an upgrade over Anthony Richardson. And then you go in and you look at this Tanner Mordecai kid, and if you go back and watch our breakdown on Wisconsin, like at SMU, he played some teams that were inside of the top 25. He played some teams that were in the Big Ten. And when he played in those games, he looked kind of pedestrian, right? So it doesn't really mean anything because, again, they're two different teams, two different groups of athletes. I don't know, man. I just think that, honestly, my thoughts still stand. Again, I know it's spring, but I gain a lot from watching these spring games, right? I think that's kind of my take on it here. But Chris, with that being said, I think we should look in the chat a little bit here.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Pick out something.
Hey, should we talk giveaways?
Yeah, guys, I've been saying this forever. If you guys haven't checked out our channel, it seems like this. I mean, Crypto, I got you, buddy.
Hey, let me just take over. Yeah. Stop telling us to talk giveaways, all right? You want to jump on, call in. I'll let you talk giveaways, son.
Yeah,
all right?
No, I'm not trying to come across as arrogant here, but no, I was kind of getting to that, man. Crypto, we got you, buddy. We know there's giveaways. We post a lot of this shit, man, all the time. You guys, if you guys are involved in our YouTube channel, you know what's on there. I can't let this whole show be about giveaways. Yeah, we're doing giveaways. I believe I'm sending Mike here a helmet. Like I'm doing what we can to promote the channel and help you guys out. And like I said, by the way, if you guys don't know, me and Christian kind of have an idea of what the fuck we're doing here. So we do have a plan. We're obviously open to suggestions and stuff, man. But we're trying, dude. It just feels like sometimes you guys always drop this to do that, So we're doing what we can, man. Thank you, Mike and Mike. Thank you, buddy.
Mike
and Mike. It's Mike. I'm gonna call you Mike and Ike.
Did you say Mike and Ike?
Yeah, So no, we're doing what we can here, guys. We can. Like I said, I just like the rest of you guys. I got a regular job just like everybody else. So does Christian. We work hard, man. We're doing what we can with the giveaways. We understand that. But if you guys want, honestly, we're gonna be handing out what, Christian? Free PS5, Xbox Series X. A custom jersey, a couple mini helmets. Click on the link in the description. Follow our channel. It's all over the place, man. Click on it. Hit sub underneath it. It's super easy. Any dummy can do it. If you want to win some free shit. So I'm not saying that every one of you guys are going to win or any of you guys are going to win. Hell, who knows? You guys are in here all the time. You guys might win. I don't know. But help us get to 1,000 subs, guys. I don't go around begging for shit. That's not my personal preference. Like Christian, is going to probably talk here in a second. But we're doing what we can here, man. Like I said, we do have a plan. Me and Christian are pretty smart guys. We make good money, but we also work hard. So we understand what we're doing here. We just want to talk college football.
Mike says, I want to Venmo you guys some money, but I have to hold off a bit. The wife is disabled. Hey, dude, don't worry about it, man. Just your presence is the best thing for us, man.
Spread the word.
So, listen, dude, it's nothing but love here. Husker in Hanover says, I don't give a crap about giveaways. Good show. Good shit, man. Like I said, we got a little fired up there. I think we caught a little bit of crossfire. I was more fired up trying to aim that at Chris. Again, I think some of you guys in this chat watch a little more, right, football than just Nebraska. I like that, man. Yeah.
Yep. I can, by the way, like I said, we're trying to do overall. We have a plan in place. Like guys, like I said, this isn't, just me and Christian show. We obviously try to interact with you guys.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're not here. This doesn't mean if we get bigger and we're going to ignore people in the chat. No, we also have a plan in place every time we do a show though. And, like I said, Christian's a smart guy. You guys just give him shit because he's a Georgia guy. I do too, but just because I'm a Husker guy, I want you guys to, you guys, by the way, if you guys don't think that Nebraska loses week 1 or loses the game against Colorado, I ain't going to come on here and fucking be pissed off about the Nebraska production on the field. Trust me. I hand it to everybody, so it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, guys, I truly, truly appreciate the support. We'll keep it there with that. Moving on, though, Christian, what do we got, man? We did talk. I saw Chris has dropped something in here. I want to comment on that for a second about Penn State. Christian, are you cool talking about them for a quick second? What was your record on Penn State? I know I have them pegged at 11-1. I think they beat Ohio State. They lose to Michigan this year. Where were you on them? I just want to touch on that real quickly. I know this guy follows us all over the fucking
Yeah, dude. It's all good. You know why? Because we'll just segue right into our Penn State preview.
Sorry to blow your eardrums out. I don't know. Sorry, kids. Jeez, I got kids knocking over cards off the wall. Perfect.
God, dude, you look older than shit next to someone who's young.
Whoa! Listen here. I can't do it, but I would do it. Jesus Christ. Wow.
All right, so let's do this here. A little Penn State preview, Chris. Look, as we know last year, Penn State was 11-2, right? Finished third in the Big Ten last year behind Michigan, Ohio State under 10th year coach James Franklin. Penn State fans super excited, obviously, about this year, and they believe this is going to be their year, where Franklin and the Nittany Lions put it all together and do something big. But before we get into season predictions, Chris, let's look at some of their players here, right?
I'm going to let you handle this. Yep.
All righty. So, as true freshmen last year, Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen combined for almost 2,000 yards and 22 touchdowns, dude. Not worried about the running backs. They also get back most of their offensive linemen from us. They get back 5 linemen who started at least 5 games last year for them. So the line should be pretty damn good. Here's the thing and the biggest question, right? Sophomore Drew Aller is a former 5-star prospect. You touched on it, I think. He's a very highly touted kid. He's played in just 10 games to date, right? And even in the 10 games he played in last year and all that talent he had, guess what his stat line was for all 10 of those games?
I don't even want to guess on this.
He had less than 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, hey, he played in garbage time. He didn't play whole games. I get it, right? Yeah. But if you play in 10 games like that, and there was some games I think he played a little more, if I'm not mistaken, but to only put up that kind of yardage, right? I want to see him take that next step forward here, Chris. I'll touch on this really quickly, and then I'll turn it back over to you. Biggest question mark, again, kind of alongside Aller, is going to be the receivers, right? Receiver room is going to be led by Keandre Lambert-Smith and transfers Dante Cephas and Malik McLean. Want to see those guys all step up and have some big years this year. Chris, what do you think about that offense?
I think that I like I said earlier, man, I think it solely relies on Drew Aller. If he plays even up to probably 70% of the hype what this kid was recruited out of high school to do, Penn State to me is Michigan reincarnated. I know. Their defense is obviously going to be good. They're going to, pound the ball with Singleton and all those guys. I know that. But Penn State, to me, Christian, when does it – is this not a make-or-break year for James Franklin? Answer me that.
Oh, I don't know. Every year, to me, seems like it's a make-or-break year for him. Yeah.
But they haven't won the Big Ten since 2016, right? And James Franklin's done a crazy good job over there. It has nothing to do with him. I think he's an amazing recruiter. He's done a great job, but I think a lot of it is Drew Aller. He brought the high octane guy, one of the top quarterback recruits in the country. This is his time to shine. If they look like I think they're going to look this year, who I am super high on Penn State, I think it pans out for them, man. I could see them, finishing in the top 6 or top 7 and maybe making a playoff bid this year. I truly do. Kind of doing what Ohio State did last year and backdooring their way in if they lose to Michigan. I could see this happening. I'm with you on the offense. I'm not worried about the offense. I'm actually not even worried about the defense. It's more so the big games. They were up on Ohio State. Then they had like 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter, and they pissed that game down their leg, last year. It's one of those things with Penn State. It's almost like James Franklin is just, always the bridesmaid. You know what I mean? It feels like that every single year, man. And I like Penn State. I really, truly do. I like what they do. Their fan base is pretty goddamn cool too. You don't hear a lot about them in the off season, especially doing this show. We hear a lot of other ones like Florida and Colorado and all these other clowns out there talking shit about how good they're going to be. These guys don't say much, man. And that's what I like about Penn State. I'm not saying their fan base has anything to do with their team, but it's just more like, I think they know that this is kind of finally they're at the point of a Bo Pelini or Frank Wright deal with this guy. Like 9 or 10 wins, finishing they've been snubbed out of a couple spots or playoff spots or BCS bowls in the past. Higher ones, I should say. Like, I'm at a point with these guys, man. I think they beat Ohio State this year, Christian, and I'm going to leave it at that. I know you're going to you dig so deep into stats. Yeah, Penn State is such a team that I've watched play so much that I just a lot of it is on the quarterback. They need a quarterback to compete and be in the top 3 of the Big Ten this year in stats, production. They're going to be fine. Singleton is just a stud. Their defense is always elite. They play really well for a half against every big name team they've ever played. That's obviously Ohio State, Michigan. But it's always like the worst thing that can happen happens to them in the fourth quarter. I swear to God, every time I watch them, I'm like, God damn, can you guys not turn the ball over, twice in the fourth quarter? You guys would have beat Ohio State. You know what I mean? It's just very tough for me to watch as a fan because I do like Penn State. I do like James Franklin as a coach and as a person. I pray to God this year for them. And it helps the Big Ten out, by the way, too, overall. It's just our conference. We know that we're not competing with the SEC every year. Anybody that doesn't agree the SEC is the best conference in the world, you're a complete freaking idiot. We all know that. So, Christian, I'm going to kick it back over to you. I know it kind of rattled on there about the offense and the defense and the team as a whole. Penn State to me is just all or nothing.
Like and I agree with you, Chris. Like they're a really solid team all the way around, right? Now there's a couple areas, and we saw some of these things last year that you really want to see get better, and that's to me that's the biggest thing. The same shit every year: quarterback and run defense, right? Or can you improve? And I'll touch on that a little more here, right? The defense should be really good again this year, right? I mean, they finished 17th in total defense last year, and defensive coordinator Manny Diaz is going into year 2, right? You know how we feel about coaches and whether it's coordinators or head coaches going into year 2. Love it. So I think they're going to be even better. Defense going to be led by outside linebacker Abdul Carter, who enjoyed a breakout year as a true freshman. He had 10.5 tackles for loss and a team-high 6.5 sacks, right? Another great Penn State edge rusher, right? Maybe Micah Parsons-esque, dare I say. Ooh. So he's going to have another playmaker alongside him, right? Fellow linebacker Curtis Jacobs, who returned this year instead of going to the NFL. Chris, they have 2 solid defensive ends, and Isaac and Chop Robinson, who combined for 9.5 sacks, 21 tackles for a loss last year. I like that, right? They can get to the quarterback. Here's the concern for me for Penn State, and that is the lack of size and manpower at the defensive tackle spot. It's funny because we started the show off talking about this, but 3 of the 7 scholarship tackles on Penn State's roster in the spring were listed at 275 pounds or less during spring practice, right? And their returning starter, Hakeem Beeman, was listed at 256 pounds, right? Maybe that's why, right? And obviously there was a different group last year, but they had a problem against Michigan, dude. If you guys don't know, this is a crazy stat to me, this blows my mind. They gave up 418 yards against Michigan. All right, don't come in here and talk to me about James Franklin's going to do this, Drew Eller's going to do that. Stop giving up 400 fucking yards to Michigan, and let's fix that, right? Before we start talking about what Penn State's going to do. Secondary, right? I'll say this now that I got my rant over. Secondary is going to be Really good too, dude. I mean, they got players like cornerback Kalen King, who finished as the Big Ten leader last year with 21 passes defended. So that's pretty damn good. They're going to be really good, like I said, in all areas. I just want to know, how can their run game get better, right? Can the run game get better this year? That's the biggest question to me. The run defense, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, they do have a Micah Parsons-esque player over there. That's kind of crazy you say that name. He was actually, by the way, he was fully on recruited in Nebraska. That's just crazy bringing him up. It makes me mad every time I see him in the NFL when the Cowboys make a sack. I'm like, God, that guy should have played here. We had him. But yeah, no, you're right though, Christian. I mean, overall, not to cut you off, but no, their defense, you're right. It's like big games. They fall apart in a quarter or two, and it's turnovers on the offense. You know, anything that can go wrong will go wrong for Penn State in one quarter. I noticed that the last couple of years with the Franklin teams, and I'm not blaming him for that. I'm sure he doesn't want that to happen. It's just very interesting how they lose games, especially because it's always the Michigan. We all know the East is ran by Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. We all know that. Like any dummy that can, find their car in a parking lot knows that. But I mean, it's just like, it's just crazy to me that that's kind of how that goes. You know what I mean? It's like, God damn. I just get upset when Penn State, because I want them to be super competitive. I like James Franklin. He's a player's coach. He's a great dude.
Yeah.
But I understand. It's like, damn, man, can you guys just finally pull it off? This year, though, they do. They beat Ohio State again. I think the Michigan game is close, Christian. I know we're going to dig deep into this. I know I didn't have all my, statistical stats pulled up as far as where their offense ranked and all that tonight, just because I'm still trying to figure out my mental health from that Nebraska-Georgia comment that you made earlier in the show. So I can't just, solely focus on that right now.
Dude, I agree. So with that being said, you ready to get into their record prediction here, son? A little Penn State record prediction. All right. So, Chris, I'll go first here, man.
All right, let's go. Let's see. I'm actually interested to see where you got them, because I've been talking about them all offseason.
I've got them pegged at 10-2 this year. I got them pegged at 10-2. So, I've kind of changed my mind a little bit again, and that's kind of the thing, right? Like sometimes we get a little hyped up about it, right? It's easy to look at what they did last year, and you have to kind of remove some of that out of the equation, and you have to be able to put new things into context, right? I've got my losses are to Michigan, and this is going to probably shock you, a surprise loss along the way, right? Illinois, Maryland. We don't know anything about Iowa. Right. Again, would it shock me at all? Here's the thing too. I will say this, right? Like West Virginia has not been a very good team over the last. Well, it's been a while since they've been a good team, but like Penn State, when they play some of these out of conference games, like against Auburn, you think about Auburn. They've lost to Auburn, I think, a couple years in a row where they played them, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken here.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just make sure on that. I'm pretty sure that last year, Oh no, they beat Auburn last year.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was okay. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so they beat Auburn last year, but I was thinking of 2021. What, they beat Auburn in 2021 too?
Yeah, dude.
I don't know.
It's not like Penn State's trash, dude. I don't know what the hell you're riding this SEC stuff for, but
I swear to God, I thought that Auburn beat them. But you know what? Hey, that's what I get for assuming, right? I'll put it this way then. The games were a lot closer, I think, than what a lot of people would say. And this is a make-or-break year for Neil Brown. I'm not saying they're going to win it. I'm not predicting that one. Again, the games that I think they have a shot at losing would probably be Illinois or Maryland. Is a surprise loss, right? Maybe Michigan State at the end of the year. But I would say 10-2 is kind of where I got them pegged.
Man, I'm going to break this down a little deeper if you don't mind. Apologies, I was in chat here laughing at some guy that thinks Nebraska's beat Michigan. Apologize there. I hope that was a joke. But I saw that and I'm like, holy shit. I love the support though. Jesus Christ. I'm going to be at that game, by the way, maybe. Anyway, West Virginia, you're right about Neil Brown. You're right. This is a make or break year for West Virginia. It's not happening. So cross that off your list, Christian. Delaware, Illinois, though, that's a tough one. I am super high on these guys. We talked about these guys in depth a couple pods ago. I still think Penn State gets it done against Brett Bielema and that Illinois defense, which was number 1 overall last year. Christian, do you hear that? Number 1 overall, even better than your Georgia Bulldogs, statistically. Iowa, you guys know my thoughts on Iowa. Consider that a dub. Northwestern, Jesus, with everything going on there, hell no. UMass, get them out of here. Ohio State at Ohio State. The Bucknuts get beat here. This was a big one for me. This obviously could go either way, but I think Penn State gets it done. You guys know my prediction already because I've talked about it so much about Penn State. Indiana, not worried about them this year. Maryland this is one that, to me, these guys are scary. We talked about it on Wednesday about my thoughts on Maryland. So I think Penn State gets it done, but I think that game is super, super ugly. Maryland has a history of playing really good teams, especially in the East, very, very close. They're like that kid that's always left out of the party every year, almost every year. Michigan. Now, they do have them at home, but you guys know my thoughts. We just talked about Michigan. It's kind of an ironic podcast. We're talking about every team that I swear that I love this tonight. They don't get it done against Michigan. Rutgers, no. Michigan State's kind of an interesting team this year. Nobody talks about them enough. Mel Tucker, I think, is kind of on the hot seat. Christian, I think you know that. I think we kind of agree on that. But I do have Penn State this year pegged at 11-1. This was a quick run through here. I don't think they win. There's no way in my mind that they win 9. Could they go 10-2? Absolutely, like you said. The losses are kind of throw a dart at a dartboard if they do go 10-12 or even 11-1. But I think Penn State, I almost feel like this is the year, like I said, just started off the segment where this is the year for them to do it, essentially. I don't know how to word this. Like, if they don't get it done this year, I don't know if they get another shot at it next year, because I think there would be a lot of pressure on James Franklin. That's just me personally. I'm not a Penn State alum. I'm not from there. But it just seems like the same shit recycled year in, year out, Christian. And I feel like this year is their best year to do it, especially with the run game. Drew Aller being, if we think he's even half as good as what we hear about in that defense, and returning the people that they do. And if they don't shit the bed, in some of these big games in just one quarter, they play great. They outplayed Michigan 3 out of 4 quarters. They outplayed, Ohio State, especially 3.5 quarters out of 4. They win these games, and we're talking about Penn State in a different light. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at with Penn State this year. I think it's 11-1 year. Could they backdoor themselves into a playoff? Absolutely. Could I be wrong and they win 9 games? That could happen as well. This is why we do these shows, but I'm very high on Penn State. I got a preseason ranked 6th, I think. This is very interesting, Christian. I'm right. I think a lot of people probably have them pegged. I think Vegas has them at 10.5 or 9.5, somewhere in there. Very interesting team to talk about, guys. They're also a team that's they're very dangerous too. I mean, would it shock you, Christian? I'm going to end this segment with this.
Yeah.
What happens if they run the table? Would you be floored if they ran the table with this schedule?
Honestly, on paper, no. And I mean, one of the big things I read, one of the last things I wrote down here is if Aller clicks and balls out, dude, then go 11-1, maybe even 12-0. And again, maybe even 12-0.
Okay.
Because I mean, really, all you need to do, beat an ailing West Virginia team. Delaware, I'm not worried about. Illinois, that's a tough game. It's at Illinois. I've got that on one of my potential trap games. But if you go in there and take care of business like you're supposed to, all is good. Iowa, man, I still think Iowa will be better than they were last year, like on offense. But how much better? That's the question, right? So they should take care of business against Iowa. Northwestern, not worried about them. UMass, absolutely not. Is Mark Whipple out there coaching them? Even if he was, I still don't think it would matter. Ohio State, dude, this can be, and I've touched on this. This can be a different Ohio State team than what we've seen in the past, right? Yeah. We watch other shows too, and I can tell you right now, there's a lot of Ohio State fans that are super delusional. I mean, They literally think they have the best defense in all of college football. Doesn't even matter whoever's replacing C.J. Stroud. It's just going to be a cakewalk for them. So, but I will say this for the Penn State fans' sake. Yeah, they could beat Ohio State, dude, 100%. They almost beat them last year. Should have beat them last year. Indiana, no, not worried about them. Maryland, it just depends. I don't know. Like I said, we've covered Maryland, I think, enough. I like Mike Loxley. I like the younger Tagovailoa, but I don't think that they're going to, like, from everything I'm hearing, they're probably going to be worse than they were last year. So give me.
I'm with you on that one. No, sorry to interject on that one. The Maryland is just one of those teams that's, to me, is just one of those weird teams that they're going to probably beat somebody this year, Christian, that nobody thought was going to happen. And they also have Ohio State and Michigan and Illinois on that schedule.
But it's not, again, they get some of those games, like I said, they kind of split it in a way, and it's split up enough, it's sandwiched in between cupcakes, if you will, right? Like, the schedule is favorable enough, I think, for Penn State to do what they need to do, right? So, to me, I mean, this kind of eliminates all excuses if you're Penn State, right? You've got 2 running backs coming back that are one of the best in the country, right? If you want to look at it that way. They've got a top, I would say, 3 running back room in all of America. They've got one of the best offensive lines in America. They've got a solid defense. Really the biggest question mark is going to be quarterback and receivers. So, and Aller's got all the talent in the world. So like I said, everything for Penn State is setting up for them to make a playoff push this year. Anything less than that, I would say anything less than competing for a Big Ten championship, to me, is kind of a failure, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's like, how many years can you settle for being second or third best in the Big Ten? And I know they won one back in 2016, but it's 2023. It's going to be 2024, pretty soon. So we're getting further and further removed. It's like Clemson, right? Nobody gives a shit that you won a national championship in 2018.
Yep. Whoopity freaking do. Yep.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. Good breakdown, though, Christian. Like I said, this was an interesting thing. I'm glad Crixus, I know we talked about it, but we also mentioned this in the pregame. But, Penn State, if they ran the table this year, man, I would be super pumped just because I just want to see somebody knock off Ohio State and Michigan at some point. But that would be crazy cool. But, yeah, if this is the year to me, this is the team to do it, honestly. That's just my personal opinion. So you guys can laugh me off the internet later when they go 8-4.
Chris,
what do you got?
Let's jump into some of these comments, dude. Again, what we're going to do for you here is, dude, this is a good one right here, because this is something we really want to cover next week. But we'll kind of sample it a little bit here.
Oh my God.
By the way, I'm dropping the link right now. So if you guys want to call in, now would be the time to do the call in, right? We're trying to push 3 hours, so we kind of need you guys to call in if you want to, right? Children of the Corn, I'm assuming he's going to call in, but also if we can get somebody else to call in, that'd be fantastic too.
You guys talk a lot of shit in the chat. I see, feel free to call in, man. I mean, we're not afraid to see your face, or I think you can turn your video off if you call in. I mean,
turn the camera off. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine. We just want the audio. So, all right, at I-80 Boys, did you see Deion Sanders was mad that his team wouldn't fight during practice? Yeah, we got some shit about this coming next week. But
wait for that one. Stay tuned for that one.
But here's what I will say about that, right? As far as fighting, don't most coaches get pissed if you fight? Right? I get it, because I was watching Hard Knocks tonight, right? And I think Robert Saleh was trying to say something kind of like, hey, don't be stupid about it, but if you're getting into a fight, don't leave your teammate out there to get jacked up.
I want to interject here. I think this is kind of one. I understand what he was implying, and also for next week. But if a punter's on the other end, 80 to 70 yards down the other side of the field, what's he supposed to do? Run in there and swing on somebody? You don't do that in a game. You get ejected. So I don't know what this is all about. I mean, that was just my thing. I mean, this is literally just me talking about this. I heard about this today, but that was my comment on this. Was I get your point, but you don't want guys swinging on people. You do that in an actual game, for example, a la Nebraska week 2, and your guys are not playing week 3, or you do it week 1 against TCU, and then I know you want your team to be tough. I think we all understand. Anybody that's played football like me and Christian would get that. But Jesus, I don't think that's necessarily something I would be an advocate for. You know what I mean?
No, dude, I'm the same way. And this is at practice too. I've never once heard a coach say at practice we should get into a fight. I've never once heard a coach say that. Right? If it's in a game, okay, I get that, right? At least that way you're showing some fight. But see, this to me is the problem with all this, Chris, right? And this is, I'm just going to go ahead and give you guys a fucking sample right now. By God, I don't care who hears.
Yeah.
This is the fucking clown shit I'm talking about. Deion is more concerned about calling out beat reporters, local beat reporters down there, and trying to tell them and correct them on shit he said right? Rather than answer the question and be some halfway fucking intelligent about how to do this, right? And by the way, I hate it when coaches do that. I hate it when Kirby does it. I hate it when Nick Saban does it, when they crawl these local beat reporters who have to walk on eggshells and probably make $40,000 a year to write for some team, right? I hate it. I can't stand it. And so for Dion to kind of call a reporter out, and we'll touch more on this next week. We'll show you the clip and everything like that, but I can't stand that, man, right? Like, not only is it pitting you, your local fans probably against you, it's just putting a big bullseye on your back and making it super unnecessary. As far as the fighting thing, they're more worried about trying to fight during practice than play football. What are we doing here? Huh? This to me, all of this stuff that we mentioned is exactly why they're going to get boat raced by TCU. I hope TCU not only comes out here and does what Georgia did to them in the national championship game, I hope that they beat them so bad that national pundits refuse to talk about Colorado after week 1. That's how bad I hope they get beat, because this is just some bullshit. I love Deion Sanders, the athlete. I love Deion Sanders, the player, but we're way past that now, Chris. Yeah. Right? I love Deion. I even love Deion Sanders, the on-air personality, right, when he was with NFL Network.
Yeah. Yeah. Preach. I'll preach that for you. I mean, even though you did some good preaching there, priest or deacon or whatever you are. I'm with you. I think this is almost at the point of borderline potato. Like, why is this even, for one, why would you even come out publicly say that? 2, yeah, I saw it, the clip that you're talking about, and he don't answer. It's you know what it is, Christian, though, in this era that we live in, it's about attention. Unfortunately, I hope that he realizes all the attention, as great as he was, his players aren't him. So, as a whole. So, when they don't live up to expectations, I hope he realizes what comes with this year. And I'll be honest with you. I'll give you a bold fucking take. Colorado goes 0-12 this year. I mean, it might happen. Christian, think about it. They beat Colorado State, their only win last year, by a walk-off field goal. And, of course, the Buffalo, the Colorado man storms the field. Of course you guys do. I hate Colorado, Buffalo. That whole thing just pisses me off. That's back of years of Nebraska football. But Colorado State, they could beat you this year. I don't see another game on that schedule that I would mark up as, definite win. You know what I mean? I'm a Nebraska man. Jesus, that's hard for me to say about Nebraska. How the hell does Colorado come on here and he's talking all this shit other than a publicity stunt? I hope he knows, like, it will backfire. It could backfire. And if Colorado wins 4 games this year, holy shit, that's a win for the Colorado man or the Deion Sanders fans. I don't know if these people that we see this and what he's doing, Christian, is just a publicity stunt. I mean, I get it. Deion's a polarizing figure. We know that. Christian, you would know more than anybody play for your Falcons.
Yeah,
I loved him growing up too. But
my mom was a Falcons cheerleader growing up, and one of the things she used to tell me was, Deion was so popular back in the 80s, right? That they used to have 2 cars, right? He used to have like a decoy car that would go out and all the media would follow it. Then he would get in the second car and they would boom, right? That was how popular obviously he was, right? And I love that. Like I said, I love Deion, everything leading up to where we're at right now. Basically, I was cool with Deion up until the point where we started getting into this whole, it's Coach Prime.
Yeah.
It's Coach Deion. Like, after that, that's when I kind of was like, all right, well, this is kind of stupid. You know what I mean? Because I hate when people do that shit. And then it's just like, ever since the whole Colorado thing, right? He, again, in that, and we'll kind of play the clip again next week, but it's like, in that clip, he said, ain't nothing set yet, right? My son, and the worst part of it was he kind of mocked the reporter. Right? He talked like the reporter. He was kind of mocking him. He's like, no, ain't nobody said just because it's my son. I benched him, in the championship game. He's the fucking one that said, literally, when he introduced himself to the players there and implied, we got some positions that are already set, and I'm bringing my luggage with me. To imply Travis Hunter and his son, Shedeur Sanders, are going to come in here, and they're going to be the guys. He told you, and it's well documented what he wanted to do. So he is opening himself up to all this just asinine, right, stuff.
Yeah, it's not to say, Christian, we don't know. I don't care who comes on air, and you guys can watch other channels, obviously, and I hope you do. it's not to say that we think Dion is going to be a bad coach. It's too early to tell. But it's almost, Christian, to me, and I want to ask you this, Christian, specifically. We don't talk about this here enough.
Yeah,
on air or off air, excuse me. Is he's bringing unwanted attention at this point, though? You know what I mean? Like, just at the end of the day, what's going to matter, and I don't know if Dion knows this. I'm assuming he does. He's a smart guy, knows how to market himself and his kids, and in Jacksonville State where he was at. It's a whole different fucking ball game over here in the Power 5, bro. And we're talking about the Pac-12, which is not even in the top 3, in my opinion, power conferences. But that's for a discussion for another day. You're bringing a lot of unwanted attention. And what happens if it don't work this year? What happens if you do go 1-11? If you do go 2-10, I mean, that's double your wins from last year. I guess, do you look at it that way? But I just think that, like, the prime thing, the wearing the cowboy hat, I don't have a problem with what you wear. I know how that relates to kids, but the spring game was almost blown out of proportion. It was a glorified track meet, Christian. We talked about this. And you're going to get fucking skull drug across the field against 70% of these teams they play in the Pac-12 this year. The Pac-12 was actually really good this year. So it's like, I know we're going to leave this for the next show and stuff, and I could talk about Colorado all day, but it's one of these things, man. I am just kind of appalled what he's come out with the last couple of weeks. We don't talk about Colorado a lot on this show, but it's just like, Jesus, man, let's quit bringing. How about you leave your play on the field? And just shut up. That's how I would handle it. And I know it's Deion Sanders. I understand. Trust me, I know more about Deion than most people do, just because I watched him play, and I loved him as a player, like Christian said, But like, it doesn't mean that I think he's going to be a bad coach. But this is year one in a Power 5 conference of a team that won one game and was by far the worst team in the Power 5 conference last year. They were god awful. Awful. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, and I know what a lot of Colorado fans are going to say again. And it's a different team. Yeah, I get that, right? It's a different team that has a lot more talented athletes that won't be able to control either line of scrimmage. So, hey, you know what, though? I will say this. It is elite. It is elite for Colorado, though, because they're going to be a really good Big 12 team. I mean, that's pretty much the Big 12 specialty, right?
Put up a bunch of points, make it a track meet.
Yeah, so they'll be all right there.
Yep, I agree.
Let's see. Again, like I said, guys, scroll back up in here. We've dropped it in the comments for if you want to call in. Be sure to call in. Let's see here. Like I said, we're at the 2-minute warning mark here. Again, we're going to stay on for as long as we can. Try to at least hit 2 hours on the show tonight. So be sure to, we'll talk whatever you guys want to talk about right now.
Yep.
So
floor open, guys. I appreciate the support tonight. Like I said, we're relatively new. We've got a bunch of big things coming though. So like, anybody want to talk some college football, I will be sure to answer some questions. If you make a dumb take, I'll be sure to tell you that too. So Crypto, man, you're always telling Corn to call in. Where are you at, bro?
Yeah. Come on, call in now.
Yeah, come on. Put your money where your mouth is. Let's go.
Crypto, to answer your original question, I think it was 1985. It was sometime in the 80s. All I know is it was when Dandy Don Meredith, and then we're still calling games. So, I mean, I think Chris was, I don't know, he was probably out of college by that point. So,
holy shit. Question, what is everyone, I didn't even read this thing. What is everyone going to do when the Huskers go undefeated into the Michigan game? I'm not saying that Huskers can't. No, Crypto, you're not wrong about that statement. I actually think there's a 50% possibility that Nebraska does go undefeated that game, and it's going to be super hyped up. I actually hope that happens as a Nebraska man. But I'm one of these people, man. First things first, we gotta go into Minnesota and try to beat a Minnesota team that has owned us the last couple of years. So, and then after that, we gotta go on the road again to Colorado. So, I'm just trying to be a realistic man here overall. You're not wrong though. If that does happen, that'll be crazy good. But we aren't. I don't care if we're undefeated going to the Michigan. We're not beating Michigan this year. Mark it down. Michigan they're on a different league than we are. Regardless.
Let's see. Gary Snyder says Nebraska O-line, will it be crap as the last 6 years?
Oh, here we go.
I don't think so. I don't think they will be, right? I mean, again, my whole take on this is I think they're going to try to get away from trying to throw the ball a bunch, right? I mean, they said the offensive coordinator Satterfield, and I kind of saw it a little bit in the spring game. They want to kind of get back to some of the more traditional roots. They're kind of, in this era of spread you out, go up tempo, throw the ball every play, try to get as many plays as you can. I think Nebraska is going to try to go the opposite of that and get back to their roots a little bit more, man. Try to pound the ball down your throat, really run the ball. They've got 3 really good running backs, and just do what they do best, right? And hit you with some play action game. I think Jeff Sims will do really well with that.
No, I'll answer your question, Gary. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. No, I to answer this question, no, the O-line is at the end of the day, they have to be better than what they were last year. We've been hearing this for years. I'm assuming you're a Nebraska fan. No, I think Nebraska's running a lot of like 2 tight end sets, fullback. I think there's only Christian, handful of teams that even do that anymore nowadays. That rule's been Satterfield's been very open about it on social media and on, air about what they're kind of going to do on offense. So I think they have to be better on the line. I do. I don't think that's even a question that they're going to be better than they were last year. I've said this forever. The biggest success this year is on both sides of the ball, front line, defensive line, and improvement on the offensive line from last year. But I think this is going to bode very well for Nebraska as far as they're going to get back to the old traditional style of football. We saw it in the spring game. A lot of tight sets. I mean, it really truly was. We did that game live, guys, and we had a lot of talk in that game about that game. But I mean, it's I'm with you, man. I think it's definitely going to be better. I don't think it's going to be shit. I truly don't. The running back room, like you said, Christian, you elaborated on it, like how stacked we are at the running back position. But we're gonna have to show it first. And Minnesota is a very good test conference opponent that does the same freaking things that we do. And that's where I think the defensive line, and I know that wasn't your question, but the defensive line is going to have to be much more improved as well. And I think Nebraska, I think that first game is going to be super, super interesting, Christian. And yes, thank you, Gary. Again, appreciate it, man. We haven't seen you in here. Thank you for hopping in, man. Any other questions, let us know, man. I'll be glad to talk a little Nebraska football.
Yeah, dude, we really appreciate it. So we've been told Husker and Hannah over here, he says, and they'll beat Michigan. Well, it's a bold take there, right? Chris, this brings up a good question, right? And I want to – this is something I just thought of here. How would you define year one under Matt Rule, right? You get 6 wins this year, fall short of the Big Ten West Championship, but you somehow pulled off an upset against Michigan. I mean, wouldn't that be like the most Nebraska thing ever?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, Nebraska goes 6-6, but beats Michigan and knocks them out of the Big Ten East title game. Yeah, kind of like we did to Iowa, but they were on our side. No, I don't think that happens. Guys, I hope a majority of you guys. I don't know you guys personally. I hope a majority of you guys watch football outside of Nebraska. Michigan's a really good team. I mean, can anything happen if you are one of those people that subscribe to the anything can happen type of bandwagon thing? Yeah, sure, that can happen. But let's be honest, Michigan is head and shoulders above damn near every fucking team in this goddamn conference. I apologize for going off there with the cuss words, but it's true. I mean, look at it in the last 2 years. They've been better than everybody else, even the Ohio States, the Penn States of the world. We talk about them a lot. They're not beating Michigan this year. Even though it's at home, I'm probably going to be at that game. Trust me, I'm rooting for the Huskers here. But it's just not going to happen. They're just so much more superior. That's like saying the 95 Husker team would lose to an Iowa State or a K-State team. It's not going to happen. As much as I wish that it were so. So I love the support. I love the optimism. It's just not going to happen. They're just not this year. Not under a first year coach and a first year quarterback in Jeff Sims.
Yeah, I think like Chris said, I mean, to me, this is kind of my Nebraska take is you look at Rule, his first years at different programs has not been always that great. But second year is, he's come out and he's been a 7+ win team, right? Awesome. I think, obviously the situation in Nebraska is not as bad as it was at Temple or Baylor as far as talent and just, things he can work with. So to me, I kind of think he'll skip that, and I think he'll go 7-8 wins. That's my realistic take for Nebraska this year, 7-8 wins. Again, depending on what else happens in the West this year, I mean, if it's another dog-eat-dog world, which it very well could be, Nebraska could have an outside shot, right, at making it to the Big Ten championship game, right, and winning the West. I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten. I'm just saying they've got an outside shot at making it to the game, which in year one for a guy like Matt Rule and this program, I think that would be fantastic.
100% here. No, I don't disagree with your take, Christian. I know you're actually higher in Nebraska than I am this year, and I'm the Nebraska guy. Just kind of like we flip-flop about Georgia. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny how that works.
Yeah, man. Well, and it's like we talked about too, right? I mean, and whenever you're talking about your team, there's always going to be a little bit of bias. I think that kind of creeps in.
100%.
There's always going to be a little bit of bias. Like that's why some of my worst takes, and I don't care, I'll say it. Some of my worst takes are probably on the Georgia games, right? Or just Georgia in general, right? Like we got into a debate about Stetson Bennett and Matthew Stafford. Don't get hyped over there, all right? Don't get hyped again.
Whoa, let's do
it.
God damn, you want to see me go postal. Holy shit. Like I told you in that segment earlier, I said, next thing I know, coming out of your mouth, Stetson Bennett's the best quarterback ever played.
Nah, but he will beat out Matthew Stafford, though, by the end of the year.
Oh, my God. I am not. No, I knew it. I can't. You fucking Georgia fans, man. You guys are something else.
Well, let's see this here, man. All right, we got one Skylar Peterson in here who's going to win the West.
Whoa! Who's the Skylar Peterson kid? I kind of know him.
Man.
Who's going to win the West, Christian? Oh, my
Damn.
God. This is such an easy answer for me. And I know me and you have fought about this team so
We
much.
fought about it, dude. That's the problem. You know what? We're a Nebraska-centric channel, right? Although we are a college football channel. Screw it, dude. I'll say it. Nebraska. Lock it in. Nebraska will win the West this year.
God, dude. No. Sorry, Husker fans. Sorry, Husker Nation. It is Wisconsin, and it's not even close. And then I think the team that finishes second is Illinois this year. I think Nebraska is going to have a decent record. I think Minnesota is up there. The Iowas of the world. I don't. I don't know what planet you guys are living on where you think we're going 10-2. I think Wisconsin just you guys know my love for Luke Fickell. And you're going to say, well, Chris, you're not a true Nebraska fan. You're just a simp for Luke Fickell. No, I'm not. I just think that Wisconsin has more to build on with a first-year coach than we do and the struggles that we have. Kyler Peterson, good goddamn answer or question there. I know where you're coming with that. Christian, though, seems to be a homer for the Skurs this year, and I like it. What we got here? A little children of the corn. We got that camera faced up at the ceiling. What do we got?
Bro, we got that awkward angle that everybody hates, on certain videos, dude. I'm just telling you right now, dude. Come on. What's going on, children of the corn? Welcome in. You're in.
Yeah, first of all, we're not winning the Big Ten West.
Thank you.
It's just not happening. That's all I got to say about that. Second of all, the 95 Husker defense was the best ever, will be the best ever, and always there's no fighting it in any way, shape, or form. You can say all you want about Georgia 2021. Yeah, they're good, but our guys were monsters in the backfield, tearing people's heads off, damn near scoring as many points as most offenses. And that's all I got to say about that. Third of all, Colorado, what a joke. I mean, I'm so sick and tired of hearing people talk about Colorado. I mean, can I use colorful language on here or no?
Yeah, go ahead.
Fuck yeah.
Let it go, bro. Let it rip.
Deion Sanders is one of the biggest horse's asses I have seen in the last 10 years of coaching college football. It's just a big stunt to try to get Colorado relevant, which they haven't been for the past 20 years.
I'll jump in on you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I will say, though, and I know you know this, Children of the Corn, it's all publicity stunt. You said it. You know what I mean? It's to draw attention. I just don't know, and I'm sure you probably agree with me on this. I don't know if he has really looked at the ramifications of when it don't work, how much of a jackass Colorado and or he's going to look like. You know what I mean? When you start off the season 0-1 getting blown out by TCU week 1, and then you go play the Skurs, and let's just say that we hypothetically win that game, which I truly do think we're going to beat them. I don't know the score, but you know what I mean? You're going to look like an idiot, and then you get into that Pac-12 schedule, and you got USC, Oregon State, Oregon. Like, I'm with you, man. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying here. I totally agree with you.
Oh, they're going to get worked this season, and I'm going to laugh every single game.
I love it.
Just worked, and he can take off that stupid cowboy hat.
I actually like the cowboy hat. I'm going to be honest. I hate everything else up until this point, but I'm actually a big fan of the cowboy hat. I think by the end of this year, that cowboy hat might be more popular than Deion Sanders in the state of Colorado.
there's a good chance, and any coach in my eyes that says at the college level, you guys should be fighting each other. Like when I played football, if you fought, even basketball, any sport, if you fought, you were not playing a minimum of 3 games. So kiss it goodbye. You want to fight your teammates, you don't get to play with your teammates then.
Yeah, go ahead, Christian. I want you to answer this.
I was going to say this, speaking of fighting, and speaking of your profile picture, this is kind of what I thought of throughout this whole thing. It reminds me of the hype of like Conor McGregor mania. You know what I mean? Where it was like, it was must see TV every time Conor McGregor got around a microphone, got around, went to fight somebody, and you either loved the guy or you hated him. And eventually, but he won. And eventually that stopped working. Kind of like, Deion did a lot of that shit at Jackson State, right? But now he's at one of the worst programs in all of America. He's been tasked with having to reflip them. Obviously, it's a new team. I get that. Well, we've kind of touched on all that stuff. But you're exactly right. I mean, it's one of those things where, like with McGregor, he became more humble when he started losing, right? Like he didn't talk as much shit.
He had to. He was making himself look like a clown to the news.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Getting in fights, attacking buses, getting arrested. You got to calm down, sir.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with Deion. He's eventually going to have to all this circus shit that we're doing here is eventually going to calm down, right? He's going to have to calm that shit down because they're going to start off and get like literally punched in the face by TCU and Nebraska. Oh, they're going to start the year off 0-2. And so, by the way, Crypto says you're the man. So, but it's going to be very quickly. This hype's going to die off pretty quickly, and then we're going to forget about Colorado. They're going to be one of those teams where everyone's kind of going to not talk about them. Maybe they might get a little bit of off-season coverage. They'll go into the Big 12, and they might do something next year. But I'm not worried about next year. I'm worried about this year.
Yeah. No, you're right. I'll add on to this, guys. I'm not disagreeing with what Christian said. I'm not disagreeing with Children of the Corn here. You're right. But I will say this, though. And I mean, you guys, this is the era that we live in with social media, right? Any attention is good attention. Whether it's bad, you look like a jackass. That's how Conor McGregor made a living. I'm just saying, good or bad.
He backed it up.
Yep. Right. But I mean, Deion right now is trying to bring every goddamn simp and their mom over to Colorado and watch them. And if they, shit the bed against TCU, which I think they truly do. It's gonna, you know what I mean? It's gonna happen, and it's good or bad attention, but it's attention. There's no such thing, So like, this works into D. I know what Deion's doing. He's a great marketer. He's amazing. Christian, you know this. Watching him growing up, I know I did. I love Deion Sanders. We played for the Falcons. Guy did the first guy to high step it to the end zone. I mean, it was must see TV.
Dude, I remember
now, man. He's doing it now.
I remember, so I went to an Under Armour combine when I was in high school. Deion was one of the coaches there. And I'll never forget this. First time I ever heard this, obviously he said it since then, but I mean, it was like just a polarizing guy, right? Even without the cameras there. And I remember he said, listen, baby, I'm not even going to try to do the voice. But he said, how did he say it, right? You got to look good to feel good. You look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good. You play good, you get paid good. You get paid good, you get. You know where I'm going to go.
Yeah, I know. Yep, you get laid good.
Yeah. So
right, but that's what he's doing, though. He's a good marketer. He's doing what, from a Colorado standpoint, like he's bringing attention to a Colorado program that everybody thought was fucking obsolete and dead. You know what I mean? Which they were last year. So like, what he's doing is I get it from that. I'm smart enough to put myself in that standpoint, and you guys are right. I'm not disagreeing with anything that's been said about Colorado. That you trust me, I get it. But I think these idiot fans that come on here, or these simps as I call them, that can get their goddamn tongue off the window for a minute. They're Colorado's going to get blown the fuck out every game almost. Like they don't stand a chance. And I apologize for my cursing, but it's like some of the shit me and Christian have had to go through this year with this channel. Even that's why we haven't brought up Colorado, Christian, for whatever. Like, we get called names and we're a bunch of shit. Holy shit, the guy's going to put himself on camera tonight. Got that full beard going on. That's what I'd like to see. Definitely know he's a Nebraska boy. But I mean, That's my point, though. I mean, no, you're right. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. It's just, yeah, Colorado is a weird topic to talk about, and it's hard for us to talk about it because just the amount of people that come in our chat, emails saying me and Christian don't know what the hell we're talking about. Well, Christian, we saw an email that were racist. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, we've seen about everything. It's just like, whatever, man. Like, I even hate talking about it.
Yeah, and I like how you guys brought up the whole Conor McGregor thing, but the difference between Conor McGregor and Deion Sanders, which are many, is it worked for Conor McGregor. It's not going to work for Deion. Conor took a company that was mediocre, worth $40 million, and made it worth $4.025 billion. The day Deion does that, then you can compare him to Conor McGregor, but not until then.
I think Christian was comparing it though through the hype, though. He's right. I mean, UFC is a whole different sport. Conor McGregor changed UFC, regardless good or bad what you think of him. Football's already been popular for how many years? I see where Christian was going with this, though. He was saying like the hype, the. I'll be honest. I mean, let's be honest. The only reason why we're talking, why are we even talking about Colorado? Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
The only reason why people talk UFC was Conor McGregor. That's my point. That's where I'm looking at from a business side. And I'm not saying I'm a businessman, but I'm smart enough to realize it. It's like, okay. And you're right. Now, if you want to get in X's and O's and details, yeah, it's stats and money. Yeah, no shit. Conor McGregor, what he did for the sport was amazing. But I'm just saying, Colorado needs that, though. That's their UFC. You know what I mean? That's their.
Holy shit. Yeah. Could you imagine a fight between Deion and Conor McGregor?
Oh, God.
With one leg?
He would kick
even if it never happened, you know what I mean? Like, just imagine the press conference of that, dude.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Those two talking shit?
Yeah.
There's no end to those two. None.
And Connor's all drunk on his whiskey and high on that booger sugar.
Oh shit, man!
Oh,
that's
man!
Good stuff, man. I need a good laugh.
Yeah,
I'm laughing at Christian like I do every night. So.
Jesus, well, Corin, thanks for the call, brother. We'll let you get back to it.
Appreciate it.
All righty.
Yeah, we needed one of those Colorado talks. We haven't had one of those for a while. That's why we don't even bring them up. Thank you, Corin. I appreciate it.
All right, well, let's take a look at this. What do we think about Gary again? With a good question. What do we think about broadcasters promoting teams on air like Alabama? Dude, we've talked so much about Bama. I think the situation, their quarterback situation is it's dire. It's dire. I hear a lot of fans keep telling us, hey, they're throwing it back, right? They're throwing it back. They're going to just pound the ball down your throat.
Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Hey, this goes back to a good segment we were talking about earlier, right? What would it look like to run a 90s offense in today, against today's defenses? Well, you're getting ready to find out, right? Bama fans are getting ready to be disappointed because Nick Saban's not doing that because you guys have like super elite running backs back there. The running backs are decent. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you on that. It's a very talented running back room you guys have, but or that Alabama has. But the reason why Alabama's doing that is because of the lack of consistency at the quarterback position, and then when the quarterbacks somehow do manage to get the ball to their wide receivers, they can't hold on to it. So, and also if you notice, like if you watch Nick Saban, he doesn't have that same like Nick Saban esque demeanor, right? Like he's not popping off at reporters, he's not pissed.
No, he's just on his knees begging them to put him into the playoffs for last year yet. I mean, that's
He's in this very jovial mood, and a lot of people are coming out and saying, "Oh, that he's just, that's scary." He's laughing, and Alabama's going to dominate the hell out of everybody because it's Alabama and it's Nick Saban. Well, that's not a good enough reason. You know what I mean? Like that'd be like me saying Georgia's going to win 3 in a row because it's Georgia and Kirby Smart. No, they're not. Nobody gives a shit. Like.
No, I agree with Gary, though, here. Like, I mean, not that he
yeah,
but this promoting Alabama thing is a Bama thing. Dude, Bama fans, listen to me, guys, are fucking desperate this year. They can't accept reality. Trust me. I watched the Nebraska man in the 90s and the early 2000s, couldn't accept the fact that we're not relevant anymore. Bama is on that, and God, I'm going to piss the Bama man off. Please comment and subscribe. Tell me what a dipshit I am. I don't care. Bama is on the end of this thing now. I've been here before as a Nebraska man. Bama fans can't accept the fact that even Nick Saban can't accept the fact that all good things come to an end. Christian, you know what I'm talking about when I say this. You're an SEC guy. I don't even have to explain it to you. Georgia is now the new top. LSU is right below them. Bama's in that talk. Tennessee is fighting for that place too. Let's be honest. Ole Miss, Texas A&M, all these other teams. I could talk about the SEC all day, and I'm not even from there. It just kills me to think that some of this shit I see about Alabama. Oh, we're preseason ranked number 4, Chris. Yeah, and they're being generous. Have you seen your quarterbacks? Jeez. Jesus Christ, man. I'm not kidding you guys when I say I could throw my 12-year-old son out there right now and could be able to complete more goddamn passes. He don't even play football. Jesus, man. It's that bad. Nick Saban even knows it. But it's this whole promotional stunt thing about Alabama, that state. And I'm not knocking Alabama. I respect what they did. Nick Saban's the greatest college coach of all time. I mean, I don't know how many more times I have to say it, but I get fired up when people bring up Bama, man. Like, the reality is set in. You don't have a Bryce Young. You don't have a Mac Jones. You don't have a Tua. You don't have a Jalen Hurts. Jesus Christ. They don't have a guy that can catch a pass, Christian. Seriously, where's the Jalen Waddles? Where's the John Mechie's? Where's the Jamison Williams? Where's the Julio Jones? Where are these guys? Jahmyr Gibbs last year is a running back. They don't have nobody. Will Anderson's gone on the defensive side of the ball. And about 7 of the other starters are drafted in the NFL. They're playing tonight. Like, where are they? Where are they? Sorry to get hyped up about this Bama shit. Thanks. Appreciate it, Garrett, for getting me fired up. If you haven't noticed, if you're new to the show, these Bama people, man, I don't know. Hopefully you're not a Bama fan. If you are, I apologize. But Christian,
I think
tell me where I'm wrong.
You're good, dude. I think he's a Nebraska fan, so I think we're all good there. And even if he was, hey man, we're keeping it real here.
Yeah.
The one thing we're not, dude, we're not some of these shows telling you that. I know we did say Penn State was going to go maybe 10-2, but other than that, we're not saying every damn body's going 10-2, right? Like, we have our own thoughts here. He said, Mike says, do you guys feel the Minnesota's a must-win game for Nebraska?
Yes.
No. Really?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, hold on. I guess I take that back. What is your expectations of that? What's your record at the end of the year, Mike and Mike? Please drop that in the chat here real quick, and I'll answer that very quickly. We can come back to it if we need to. I do feel like it's a must-win game. If your thoughts are Nebraska going 9-3, 8-4, this is a huge game. If it's not, if you think we're going 6-6 or 7-5, then that's a little bit of a different story. Christian, I want to hear your thoughts real quick. Why you think it's not a must-win, regardless of what he says.
Well, I just think that, I mean, again, you can still lose this game and your season's still right in front of you. 100%. Right? Do you want to lose the game? Absolutely not, right? But a must-win game for me, right, is, again, for this program where Nebraska's been at the last, 5-7 years, not a must-win game, right? It's a game you want to see them play competitive, right? It's a game that you want to see them win, obviously. But if they lose this game, am I going to say Matt Rule needs to be fired? No. Right?
Oh, God, no.
I want to see this year, and this is my take on it. I just want to see Nebraska hit a point this year, Chris, where they beat the teams they're supposed to, right? Like, let's obviously get past the Georgia Southerns and the Troys of the world, right? Let's beat them, and then let's beat some maybe bottom tier schools, and then beat some of the mid-tier schools. Right? And maybe, right? And maybe not. They don't have to beat Michigan, but let's make that Michigan game really close.
Okay.
Let's go in. Let's steal one against Iowa. Right?
100%.
Like I said, I've got them winning some games. I'm very high on them. I'm higher than you are on them. I just think, is it a must-win game for Nebraska? No. If they played Minnesota week 1, year 2 for Matt Rule, is it a must-win game? Absolutely. I'm one of these guys. I don't like giving coaches more than 3 years if they haven't proven anything, right? If you hit year 3 and we still have losing seasons, we got a problem.
Okay. No, I agree. I'm going to jump in here. I just saw Mike and Mike say he picked them 9-3.
Yeah.
Then if you think they're going 9-3, this is a must-win in my opinion, because that means that you think they're either going to beat Illinois, they're going to beat Maryland, they're going to lose to Michigan. They're going to lose to Wisconsin. They're beating probably Iowa. That's a tough that to me. If you feel that's why I interjected this like I did, Christian, because this is a crucial game to me as a Nebraska man, and you know what I'm talking about. You've lived in Nebraska for quite a while now. Your wife is obviously a diehard Nebraska fan, so like this game to me is huge. If they do pull the W off, I think Nebraska does have a very good chance to go like 8-4. That's where I'm at. But if they do lose this game, does it not mean that? Yeah, no, Nebraska can have a super successful season after this. They can get the ball rolling against Colorado. They can win the next 2 games, go into Michigan, probably get beat. The problem is you turn around against Michigan, then you got to play Illinois. And then you're looking at a 3-3, and then you're looking at Maryland, Michigan State, or Purdue, and some of those teams. Like I just think this game is so crucial as far as Matt Rule's start to this season as a Husker, coach, first-year coach, first game. It's huge. This is why we're doing this game live, by the way, guys. I hope you guys join into that. Christian knows this. We're doing this game live, by the way, play-by-play. I hope you guys join in on the 31st on this. It's going to be a little bit different type of probably attitude. You're not going to see me get all fired up and yell into a microphone. And Christian probably, I don't know. Christian, what are you going to do? Are you going to be a little more relaxed, or are you just going to be telling everybody that Nebraska's going 10-2 this year? I don't know. But no, honestly, all jokes aside, though, I honestly truly think that this game is huge for Nebraska. I do think I don't want to say make or break. No, hell no. I mean, there's plenty season left after this. I just want to come out personally as a Nebraska fan. I'll say this as a Nebraska fan and leave it at that, and not just as a co-host of the show. I just want to go out there and compete and play hard, and I want to play really good defense and run the football. I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. By the way, Gators run the East. Welcome in. He was at a football game, a little high school football. Actually, do nothing better than a Friday night, smoke in the air, in a fall starting to kick off. A little bit of some I don't know what kind of smells do you smell really? Like some hot dogs right at the concession stand, some popcorn being popped on a Friday night.
Oh yeah, baby.
Right? Let's go. Maybe a flask that nobody knows about in there in the stands.
I was going to say, I'll probably crack a beer, snuck them in with like a cooler, which looks like a fanny pack on the side, dude. That's what I'm doing. Matching me with a fanny pack, by the way. But yeah, if I can get a few drinks in while I'm watching, absolutely.
Wouldn't shock me, dude. You're still stuck in the 90s.
Yeah, well, yeah, so is your mom, but here we are. All right, so let's go.
Oh, my God. Well, dude, listen. So here's another one here. What Rod says, what do we think about FSU offensive line? Dude, listen, I think FSU is going to be really good this year, right? I think I had to look it up. Only losing 2 starters on that offensive line, right? I kind of said, hey, Florida State, they normally shit the bed at least 1 or 2 games a year. Every time you get really hyped up on Florida State, they don't do much, and then Florida State fans let me have it. So I will say this, they're going to be all right this year. They're going to be more than good. They're going to compete for it. They got a tough one facing LSU week 1, right? LSU is going to have a really good defense. They have, to me, arguably one of the best defensive players in the country in Harold Perkins over at LSU. So that first game might be a little rough for them, but after that, I think it's smooth sailing for Florida State.
Well, Rod, if you're still in the chat, I know we got to this a little bit late, buddy. If you haven't known, please subscribe, and you would know that I am the biggest FSU homer right now on the internet. I swear to God, I get emails, random questions, and comments how I'm just an idiot. And this is the 2017 FSU team that's just going to let everybody down. I am big on FSU this year. Huge. I actually have them running the table, if that means anything. I don't know if you're an FSU fan, but I do. Their offensive line should be better if they can protect Jordan Travis. And I think Jordan Travis is going to be in the Heisman race. I think he's going to make the Final 3 this year. I can't believe I'm saying this about Florida State. I'm not from Florida. I'm not even a Florida man at all. I just think Florida State's going to be awesome. Me and Christian had a little debates back and forth about this, but So I think the offensive line definitely will be better. They returned 18 out of 22 starters. That's almost most. I think that's almost number 1 out of any division team this year out of 133 of them. I'm big on FSU. So you guys want to talk about Fear of the Spear? I see Chris has dropped in. I know he is always promoting the Florida State man, but I'm big on him this year. I do. True, Christian. I know me and you have a little bit of difference between Florida State. You have them losing to LSU. You're a big LSU guy. We've talked about. By the way, guys, if you don't know, we're doing that game live as well too. That's on what, Christian? Sunday night.
Yeah, absolutely. So that actually segues to a good topic. When are we going to call a game? So we're going to do the Navy Notre Dame game I believe that's next weekend. So
Yes. Yep.
next week, by the way the show will kind of break down. We're just going to do a Wednesday show, and then we're going to get ready for the season. So what'll happen, basically, we're going to call that Navy Notre Dame game. I think it starts at like 1:30, so we'll probably be on at like 1. Yep. We'll be 30 minutes before the game starts. Yep. And then after that, I mean, the following week, I mean, I'm pretty much taking the whole weekend off work just to make sure. Dude, it's the college football season, man. I mean, it's upon us. We're going to be calling Florida at Utah. We're going to be calling Nebraska, Minnesota simultaneously, by the way. So that's going to be interesting to see how all that works. And then I believe the next day, if I'm not mistaken, we're calling who else are we calling that week? TCU, Colorado.
Yep.
And then we jump into little Florida State, LSU. Yep. And then if I'm not mistaken, week 2, we're calling Bama at Texas. Or Texas at Bama.
Yep. And that'll be, like I said, if you guys don't know, if you guys want to watch our, we've done a couple of these. It's interesting to say the least. Like I said, we're going to do play-by-play. We're obviously, like I said, guys, we're not anti-Nebraska here, but like we're going to be talking just that game. And you know, people want to drop in the chat and drop comments. I want you guys to comment and whatever and fill your piece. But we're one of these channels where, like I said, this is not just a Husker channel. I hope you guys all know that we're obviously fans of college football. So I mean, me and Christian obviously have money on the line. Christian, I'm sure you're going to be dropping some money on some of these games, like I definitely am. And we're going to be calling the games live, and we're going to be seeing, like I said, like the week 0 game, which they call it week 0, which is stupid. The Notre Dame Navy game. Yeah, there's not probably a ton of hype behind that game, but man, roll that corner. We got Utah, Florida, Nebraska, Minnesota. There's some big games. Even we can't even touch the Clemson Duke game, Christian. I mean, I know we wanted to talk about that a little bit and maybe cover that one, but we can't just with the time slot. So like, there's a ton of games, guys. LSU, Florida State. That's a big one for us. You know, Christian's been a LSU truther the whole off season. I've been a Florida State guy, so we're definitely going to have different money on the line on that one. If you guys bet, if you don't, that's fine too. But yeah, we're in there. We're going to talk about some college football. We're going to be doing the game. We're super hyped about everything we're going to do here. So if you guys don't think this is going to pick up, it definitely is. Christian, anything else here? What do you got here? I know we're digging into the chat here. Anything else you want to, have you seen, or Chris, when are you going to call a game? Perfect. We just answered that. That'll be mostly Christian. By the way, if you guys don't know, I'm sorry, Christian, I don't want to cut you off. If you're going to say
you're good.
Tell me how bad I am at this podcasting thing. But no, Christian, by the way, if you guys haven't watched Christian call a game, you should. Like, he's like literally no different or better than most people that call NFL games. He's like crazy good at it. So that's why I suggest you guys join in, man. Even if you're not a Notre Dame Navy fan, join in. It's pretty awesome. If you love college football, you're going to sit around and watch some football with this guy. This guy's pretty good at it. I'm not even stroking this guy eagle. I kind of think he's kind of slow. Got some problems. Definitely overweight, but he can call some football games. So no, he's really good at it. And I'm just a guy that is kind of the play-by-play guy that talks after him. So anyway, we'll move on here. That was my whole rant about that.
Dude, listen, you do a fantastic job as well at calling games, Chris. I will never doubt your ability to be, right alongside there calling it, dude.
Yeah. I don't have to play-by-play like you do, though, man. You're good at the play-by-play, dude. You're really good. I'll give you credit when credit's due.
All right, so here's something interesting we haven't talked about at all. How many upsets will App State pull this year?
Jesus, who'd they beat last year? Was it?
God, they beat Texas A&M.
Yes,
Texas A&M.
yes,
and they played North Carolina really, really close. That game went into Jesus, dude, like quadruple overtime. They're starting the true freshman quarterback this year. They're playing North Carolina, East Carolina. I mean, they're really not playing anybody for them to really upset other than North Carolina this year.
Would you? Oh my God, I can't take that one. No, you're right about App State. They did knock off A&M last year. Number 1 recruiting class in the world.
I don't think – I would guess the only game they could really pull off that would technically be an upset would be North Carolina. I don't think they'll beat North Carolina this year.
The only reason why I say North Carolina isn't because North Carolina's offense is just going to destroy whatever they have on defense because of Drake May. Even if it's like North Carolina has no defense, which they've kind of been kind of known for, I mean, they're going to score every time they have the ball. Drake May is – Christian, we know he might be the number 1 overall pick next year. And I know I'm not basing up hypotheticals here, but holy shit. App State, if they play like a Miami or played, A&M again, Ole Miss, Nebraska, Minnesota, Illinois, maybe. Yeah, maybe if they had one of those type of teams on their schedule. But North Carolina, I just think because their offense is just so potent. I don't know how they would have any sort of athletes to be able to stop that offense.
Gators run the East, say maybe Coastal Carolina. Like, I thought about that because Coastal Carolina's got –
yeah.
But like Coastal Carolina, they're not even a top 25 team like they were in years
but is
past.
Grayson McCall back? Can you guys in chat answer that for me?
Yeah, he is. Grayson McCall is back.
He's good. He's good. Okay.
So I don't know. Like these, like getting into that Sun Belt conference, dude, it's just so weird. I feel like, you know what I mean. Like, can I really say, you know what I mean? Like somebody that's.
Would you put money down on this, though, Christian? If they do, would you like? I think that. Would
App State against Coastal Carolina?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I would. I mean, just because at that level, you know what I mean. Like it's so tough to predict what's going to happen. Like you would have to really know the roster inside and out. And there's probably, I mean, you could probably do your research and like figure it out enough to make like an informed betting decision. But I don't know, dude. I mean, that's at that level of college football. Not that it's not important, but there's probably only so much coverage you're going to get.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. That's a. By the way, that was a very good question, Joe. That might be the best question you ever asked.
Yeah,
App State though, it's always been known for knocking off like crazy teams. That's a very good question. That was interesting.
We'll jump around a little bit here. He's got another question. Who has the best kicker in college football? Easy, dude. Ohio State.
After the Jokic incident and the missed field goal, that's what every Ohio State man's telling me. I mean, they're telling me if it's not the hash marks because it wasn't sunny and shiny and calm wind, everybody, even though it was in a dome, they can't play in anything other than that. That is a good question too. I don't even know who would be the best kicker in college football.
See, I think the thing is, dude, I really swear to God, I think the thing is everybody thinks they have a really good kicker unless you know, like, hey, he's missed a bunch of like clutch kicks. Like, that's such a hard thing to figure out. Like, who has the best kicker? It's probably whoever just makes the longest kick and is the most consistent, I would say, right? So, like, I thought Michigan had a really good kicker, but I think he might have left for the NFL, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Or maybe I'm mistaken.
No, he did. I think if off the top of my head, who's the kid for Bama? Will Richard or whatever? He's back again. They had to kick a lot of field goals. They're going to kick a fuck ton of field goals this year.
Was it like Dick Willinson?
Yeah, there you go. I think Drew Stevens. There you go. Iowa's kicker because they ain't going to put the ball in the end zone.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
he would be up there. I'd probably put like a God. Who was it? There was one name that has been floating around forever. Is it who I think is going to be terrible this year? It's always great kickers play on bad offensive teams.
Don't they? It's like fantasy football.
Oh, Josh,
you know what I mean?
Or the kid from Stanford. It dawned on me. They're not going to be very good this year, but he is a good kicker. By the way, I do know that.
To me, if you want to be recognized as a good kicker, it's like fantasy football, Chris, right? Like you have to be on an offense that's good enough to move the ball, but not good enough to score.
Yep. Kind of like you in the sack, right? You know, you're
exactly.
Dude. You're not good enough to finish. So
exactly, man. Like you said it perfect, right? You got to be good enough to at least get the first date, not good enough to close. You're exactly right.
Thank you. I'm glad you owned up to that. Now we all know.
But at least I can close, though.
You haven't closed anything other than going behind you tonight.
Then your cousin.
Yeah. Wow. I don't have nothing to say to that.
Only because we're married. You know what I mean? That's what I mean, because we're married. But anyways, all right, Chris, here, I'm going to let you take over on this one for just a second. Big 12 champs.
Oh, shit. Oh, Gary. Oh, my God, man. That's a good question, Gary. I don't want to sound like a guy jumping on the bandwagon here, and I study a lot of college football. I think Texas gets it done. I think they have to get it done this year before they jump in the SEC. A lot of people are super high on K-State. I really, 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 really like Texas Tech this year, though, and they play Texas last game of the season. Good question. Very good question. I'm going to take – I have Texas going. This is crazy. You probably think I'm nuts. going 11-1 or 10-2 this year, and I still think they can probably win away with the Big 12. I don't know exactly where Christian's on this, but I know he's pretty high in Texas. He's also very high in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a very scary team. The Big 12, like I've always said, is throwing a dart at a dartboard every year, Gary. God damn, man. I that's a very good question. That was K-State. There's so many people high at K-State. I don't know if that's just my recency bias against him because I'm an old school Big 12 guy with Nebraska and I hate K-State. But K-State is, God, I think in every preseason ranking, they are top 20. Gary, actually, drop in the comments, Gary, if you who do you have winning it? Because that's a very good question. Christian, I want to, Gary, obviously got pulled up here, but I mean, who do you got, Christian, win the Big 12? I honestly, this is a very tough question for me because I either think it's Texas or Texas Tech. But everybody I've saw, AP poll came out, coaches poll came out this week. Everybody has K-State ranked in like the top 16, anywhere from 18 to 14, somewhere in there, 20. 14. Man, I don't know if Gary's still in the chat, but man, I hope he tells me who he thinks because it's a dart at a dartboard. We talk about this all the time since we've done the show. I don't know.
Dude, I know. Okay, so like it's just like you said. Like I know a lot of national media pundits like they're super high on K-State, right? And I get it. They're getting back like a really young quarterback that ended up beating TCU in
the Big 12 last year.
Big 12. They get a lot of defense. Like a lot of that defense is coming back. You know, I don't know, right? Like this is a tough one for me. I think Texas. To me, I've got either Texas or TCU. Right?
Wow,
but
TCU, I that high on TCU.
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, they got like half Alabama's roster transferred over to them. So
this is that SEC bias again. You fucking SEC people do. I don't think TCU wins 7 games this year. I'll call it good. Just hope you get by Colorado.
I will say this though, like this reminds me of like last year. It's like Baylor, right? Every time like the national media or any of us get really high on Baylor, they always shit the bed.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, Christian. Gary just dropped into chat here. He said their coach and offense coordinator, I got it, K-State. And he might be right about this. I have been very, 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 very underrated on K-State this year. I keep seeing them. I keep telling myself I just don't think I see enough out of them. And he might be right here. This is one of these kind of teams that I know that I've been very if you have teams like me who I think Clemson's going to finish high and or what's another team? A&M, teams like that I think are going to finish high. You got to push other teams back. K-State's always that team, and I think that's not going to make it. So he might be right here. Gary makes a good point. I like Gary. He's got good points here.
Absolutely, dude. Ooh, I got one right here. This is something we touched on. What's going to be the biggest upset in week 1 or week 0? I mean, we kind of touched on that last episode. I've got Clemson and Duke, dude. I think Duke will. I think they're going to shock the world.
Woo. Mine would be, and I don't know if you could call this an upset, but wouldn't we agree that LSU's probably a higher rated team than FSU, right? Every AP coaches poll. Christian?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Florida State. That would be my week 1. Week 0 would be tough. I think Notre Dame, USC play those weeks, but they play Navy, and I think USC plays San Jose State. That's a good question, though. Good question, Gators. I'm going to, though. I know you don't want to hear it, but I'm rolling with FSU. Oh, God, man. I've put my foot in the sand for so long with that one. I'm going to bring up a question. It looks like Kyler Peterson here asked something. Who's winning the ACC this year? That'll answer your question, brother. FSU, man. I'm either going to get like laughed off the internet. I've known this forever, this whole offseason. I'm going to get laughed off the internet for picking Florida State this year. Because they could easily shit the bed like they do most years when they're supposed to be good and go like 8-4, 9-3. And I have them like literally running the table this year, which is freaking crazy. So I even put money down on these guys to win the ACC this year. That's how crazy and what Christian told me. I'm borderline mentally challenged.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we're at about that. We're on that topic. So good question, Kyler Peterson. I appreciate that. Christian, what's the next one we got here? What's the next question we got here? Give us some questions, guys. Make it interesting tonight. We'll finish it off here.
Gary says, "Do we gotta, like I said, we gotta hit a little 2.5 hours, break the show record here, smash through it." Utah State beats Iowa. Gary says, dude, I don't know.
Woo!
I don't know shit about Utah State. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know Iowa's offense will be better this year. Again, defensively they're always good. They lose a ton of pieces though on that defense.
Christian,
so.
how is their offense any worse than it was last year? I mean, you know what I mean?
I don't think it's worse, but again, how much better is the question, right?
I mean, they could throw one of you guys. They could throw Kyler Peterson in there at quarterback, and they would be better than what they were last year. I mean, Spencer Petras was probably the worst quarterback I've ever seen play D1 football, and I'm not even saying that because I don't like Iowa. I'm with you though. Iowa State, Utah State. I don't know what Utah State really has. I have Iowa State beating Iowa week 2 though. Throw that out there. Potential upset. Write it down.
If Iowa State beating Iowa, you know what?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Yeah. Throw that down, boys. Throw it down.
Again, like you said though, like if okay, so you got to think like if the offense doesn't progress, you know what? Let me check something here. Go ahead. Iowa
State is that game is like always down to a field goal at the end of the year. Always, every fucking time.
Such a close game though, right? Okay, so that's the first game. That's the first.
Always.
Yeah, so Utah State plays them like right off the rip. Mm-hmm. So, but who does Utah State even have on their team here?
I don't even know. Gary Snyder might know more than I do. Obviously, if he thinks Utah State, that's actually a good point though. I'd love to see it happen. I'll tell you that, Gary.
Gary Snyder, most interesting man in the chat.
Yeah, he actually is. He comes up with some like these crazy takes that I don't know about certain teams. Gary, why don't you call in, buddy?
Yeah, pissing off the Iowa man since day one.
I love it.
Oh, dude. Oh. Now that I'm looking at this, man, I don't know.
They have Iowa top 25 team. Yes, they do. In one of the polls, they do. I saw that.
So the only thing I know about this Utah State team is they've got Cooper Lagas, right? And I know he's one of those guys that's kind of I've heard that name before, so I know he can do some stuff, right? But that's all I know, right? So I mean, Utah State, dude. I'm just saying, right? Like Utah State could come out of nowhere and surprise them, right? Wouldn't surprise me. And that's only if the defense progresses significantly, right? Without Riley Moss and without Campbell at the linebacker spot and some of their other players they've lost too. They lost some depth pieces transferring out in the portal. And again, if Cade McNamara, if he struggles early and this offense struggles to find rhythm, because the thing is, like, yeah, they got great running backs. Yeah, they can run block really well. Can they hold up in pass protection, and can they get some wide receivers that can run crisp routes and create separation? And that's Iowa's problem, right? That's honestly why I don't think they can really progress the offense much further than where they're at, because they tried to do it last year, but they just realized, like most of the way through the season, they just can't pass protect like they normally could, right? And they just don't have the athletes there to really create that separation. Now, some guy from Iowa, right, which I work in Iowa, will probably sit there and try to tell me, well, you don't understand, yeah, I get it, right? Please tell me more about the guy that runs a 4.8 40 that's probably going to go play for Bill Belichick and the Patriots, right? Oh. Please tell me about the precise routes that Iowa won. That's why they almost lost to who was that? One of the North Dakota, not even one of the good Dakota schools, like the Division II national champs,
SDSU
last year. Yeah, SDSU.
I just don't know. I'll be honest with you on air. I don't know enough about Utah State, but I hope he's right. I mean, anytime I can stick it to two of my buddies that are Iowa fans, like diehard, even though they grew up in Nebraska, I gotta lay it to them. This Nighthawk guy, I gotta ask about this guy. We see him chime in. I'm like,
this fucking Nighthawk guy, dude.
This fucking guy will chime in. I know he's a Bama man. It's almost like I want to highlight this. I'm going to. Nighthawk, I see some shit from you, man. You're a gump. Sure as shit. I gotta ask you, do you think Texas beats Bama? Because I have Texas beating Bama. I think Christian does over here as well. Yeah, that is a high profile game. I think is that week 2 or 3? That's a way up there in the early season. This one just always freaks me because I've caught a lot of shit. I think I'm obviously going on a limb with this one because I'm high on Texas, but like saying anybody's going to beat Bama is always like, like some crazy take every fucking year.
Nighthawk has commented some very controversial shit on our stuff. I mean, he's literally come out and tried to troll us and said, I don't know if this is a troll or what he's doing here, but he's kind of come out and said, Bama, Roll Tide, Chicken Fried, Bama by 50 or something like that. You don't know Daddy Saban, I think is what he said on one of them. So it's very weird stuff. Obviously, he's a very big Alabama fan, but if he's being sincere about this, then
I'll give him some love.
If he's being sincere about this, then honestly, this is probably the most realistic Alabama fan I've ever seen. Right? In that he's got Texas.
I want the Bama man him to call in sometime, Christian. I do so badly. Like I want to give it to him, man. We don't have a lot of Bama fans in the chat because we harp on him. Sorry to interrupt you, but like he is always like, every time I see his name, it makes me laugh because of the profile picture. He does. So I appreciate Nighthawk as much as I think you're a total stooge. I appreciate you jumping in and always giving us our take on why we're fucking idiots and we're not putting Bama top 3 every year.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's classic. You can call me Dragon Wind, dude, if he's Nighthawk. So
right.
Turn on the Corn says Nebraska beats Wisconsin. I don't think it's that controversial. Again, we've talked about it. I think I'll make this part really quick here. I think by the end of the year, Wisconsin fans are going to miss Graham Mertz. I think that's how bad the offense is going to be from a passing standpoint. Don't me, son. You know and I know what it's going to be.
You overweight slug. You don't know what
listen, you need to get corrective surgery or something because we're watching two different things here, you old fuck.
I think that you think for some reason that Wisconsin is just a scrub of a fucking team and Graham Mertz apparently was some savior and he's going to I would like to see. No, I'm not saying you agree with him, but you think Tanner Mordecai isn't an upgrade? Wisconsin's going 9-3, 10-2 this year, dude. What's your money in Vegas right now, guys? Chat, please do. I'll pay you what you lost.
Yeah, okay, good.
Please do. This guy, Christian has this thing about Wisconsin. He thinks Luke Fickell is a scrub, hasn't done anything. He thinks that obviously who's Braylon Allen's a piece of trash, I guess, at running back. I mean, I don't know what the hell.
Didn't say that. Didn't say that, right? All I'm saying is you can't just only run the ball, right? Like you've got to be able to throw it.
This is the Big Ten we're talking about. This isn't the Pac-12 where you got to score 40 points a game to win. You forgot that Wisconsin's defense is obviously.
I'm not saying you got to throw it every play, but I'm just saying think about this. All right. Let me ask you a question. All right. Has Wisconsin been able to run the ball really, really, really well and had terrible quarterback play or passing game efficiency and pass blocking over the last, I don't know how long, probably I'm not 20 years?
I'm with what you're saying, but they're always in contention for the Big Ten title. But you think Luke Fickell is hasn't won wherever the hell he's been at? This guy is not an idiot.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying his first. If you look at his first years at teams he's been at now, the Cincinnati thing you can kind of take with a grain of salt.
Right.
But if you look at the 1 year he took over at Ohio State, 7 wins, right? I mean, so and tell me that Ohio State team that he took over for wasn't loaded. When they fired Jim Tressel.
Okay,
I should say.
All right, here I'm going to end this discussion then, Christian. Me and you do not agree on Wisconsin.
Yeah,
I'm not a Wisconsin simp. I'm not.
Yeah.
Who wins the Big 12? The Big Ten West this year? Then, if you don't think it's Wisconsin, who the fuck is it?
Well, we just talked about it, dude. I think.
Who?
So obviously, if you're halfway high on Nebraska, which I think you could say there could arguably be a 7-8 win team this year.
You think
they could beat Wisconsin?
Winning it?
Yes, I've said that. We've literally said that. Do you have Alzheimer's or dementia?
I can't listen to that. I don't even know if you're talking.
Well, put your headphones back on, you deaf son of a bitch.
No! Nebraska's not winning the West this year.
Chat, let us know right now, does Nebraska have a legit shot to win the Big Ten West this year, right? If not Nebraska, give me Illinois, right? I think Illinois might be one of the more complete teams out there, right? And I like their coach. So, but if it's not Illinois, give me Nebraska. You struggle to realize Nebraska, right, has had an offense recently, as of last year, in this century. And defensively, yes, they look like hot garbage last year, but a lot of that was, number one, scheme, and number two, it was their inability to practice tackling, which I know Matt Rule has already addressed. So you take away that, and how can they not be much better than they were last year, Chris? They should have beat.
It doesn't matter whether or not they're going to be better. It's not hard to be better than 4 fucking wins. Jesus, did you do this on purpose to trigger me?
God, I don't see how you can get so triggered about this, dude.
This is a dumb take to say that Nebraska's they're going to win the West and not Wisconsin. What about Iowa? I hate these teams that I'm even talking about. Illinois, Minnesota. What? God damn, man. Like, I honestly think, like, you need your fucking man card pulled or something. I don't know what the hell you're talking about over there when it comes to the Big Ten West. Like, it's a crapshoot. Purdue won it last year. Could Nebraska win it this year? No, they can't. We're not good enough, man. I feel bad for the guys in the chat because I'm the Nebraska man, which is what my title implies. But my God, we're not. Give me 2 years and then have this debate. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Sorry for blowing up, man. I don't even know. You think Wisconsin's just like some scrub team? It just blows my mind. They're a level above us, even though I think they finished 5-7 last year, but coaching changed midseason, blah blah blah. What are you talking about? You think that Iowa's not going to be better than what they were? They should have won it last year if we wouldn't have beat them at the end of the season. We knocked them out of the championship game. You think that, Illinois, like some of these teams, I mean, like, I guess I don't understand, dude. I don't know where you're coming from. Now you got the whole chat on your side. I don't know if you do this on purpose to piss me off or scream into the mic and make myself look like a fool. I really don't care. I don't really know what the hell you're talking about, Chris.
Well, Chris, and listen, let me just say this, okay? First of all, we're not that far removed from the season. So why don't you simmer down over there, because it's already past your bedtime, son. And why don't you listen to the voice of reason here, okay? And this is that. I've said this from day one when Frost was fired. I believe a middle school coach could have come in and ran that program better than he did. Could have had winning seasons, hell, probably even.
With you.
So you get somebody who's halfway competent and has a track record of turning programs around. Again, I know this will be the sore spot, right, for a lot of people, but it's part of what you have to admit. The Big Ten West is arguably one of the most, if you're a halfway decent team, it is one of the most winnable divisions in all of college football. Next year, that goes away. Next year, you get the good parts of the Pac-12. So it's all redundant. But this year, saying that Nebraska couldn't beat Wisconsin, even last year, last couple of years, they played them really close. All right? So it's Luke Fickell's first year as well. He's lost. No, you got to remember, they lost their defensive coordinator that was supposed to be, was it Jim Leonard or whatever, that was supposed to be the big guru over there that was their head coach?
Correct.
He's not there with the program anymore, right? Unless I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so to me, yeah, they'll probably be good on defense, but there's nothing saying they're going to be as good as they were last year on defense.
So okay, riddle me this as I'm getting blown up by my own people here.
Huh?
Do you really think that this is going to be like last year in the Big Ten West, where there's just 6 teams that none of them are any good? 6-4 wins the division. You win the Big Ten West. Is that what you're implying this year? Because Nebraska, as much as I love Nebraska, I love the optimism. I love it. Trust me. I've lived in the state my whole goddamn entire life. I get that. I want it just as bad as any. I'm the biggest goddamn idiot on the internet with Nebraska. But I'm also a realist. If they win this thing, I'm talking about record-wise, about national relevance. I think you're looking at this differently than I am. Could they win the Big Ten West? Yeah, that's if Wisconsin shits the bed, Iowa sucks, Illinois sucks, and probably Minnesota is a 6-6 or 7-5 team. We have to win at least 8 or 9 games. Can it happen? Sure. But then in that, look at the schedule, break it down, and break down that conference. on the west side. I mean, I don't see how Wisconsin, to me, is just like, I think it's asinine that they don't win this side of the division. To me, it's hands down. Their schedule's pud.
So do you
on this side? It just is.
So let me ask you this, right? Do you put Wisconsin in the same echelon as Alabama or Georgia over the last couple of years?
No.
All right. Okay. Do you put now? Hold on 1 second. Do you put them in the same echelon as Michigan or Ohio State, or hell, even Penn State?
That's not what I'm saying. We're talking about the win in the West, which is one of the.
I understand that. I'm working backwards to it.
Free education.
Just answer the question. Do you put them in that same category?
Well, what kind of stupid question is that? No, I do not put them in that category. But would you put Purdue in that category because they won the West last year? Thank you.
That's my point.
Holy
that's literally
shit.
my point.
Jesus,
if you're saying
my mental health is all messed up now. You thinking that 6-4 is we won the West? You were 6-4. Purdue was 6-4 last year. They played for the title.
What I'm saying.
Destroyed by Michigan. What the hell are we talking about?
Any halfway decent team could jump into that division, right? You could hell, even Gators run the East. You put Florida in that division, they're going to win it. And we're not even that high on Florida.
No, but again, Florida's not winning the West. Even if they were dropped in here tomorrow, they're not winning the West. They don't play that style of football. Nothing against you, Florida, man. But I mean, come on, Christian. You're making a case for Purdue last year at 6-4 or whatever the hell the record was, and now you're trying to prop the Big Ten West up like they're relevant. They're not, and I'm a Nebraska guy. I can't believe I'm even going against this.
I'm not trying to. First of all, I'm not trying to prop the Big Ten West up like they're relevant. That's not what I'm trying to do at all.
Go home. Take your ball or your wireless.
What do you mean? And go home, dude. You just made my point for me.
It might be your idea of grandma's basement. I don't know. Garage? I don't know.
You've been to my house. You know what my house looks like. You know it's mine.
But it's my cousin running the show. Whatever you're doing down there in the basement. Come on.
My main point with it is, Chris, really what I was trying to say is they're not on that same level. It's not like you have to play Alabama or Georgia, or you have to play, or you have to compete with Michigan or Ohio State to run your division. For this last year, this is only 1 year left, so because it all changes next year. But my point with it is you don't have to overcome that. You just have to be a halfway competent team and just play good football. And you can win that division.
Hey, the key words, play good football. When's the last time Nebraska's played good football?
Last time Nebraska had a coach that showed up on time, wasn't hungover, and could put two sentences together.
Last time you showed up fucking sober to this show. I don't know. I mean, damn, dude. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I can't believe you're coming on air and sitting here trying to tell me that Nebraska is like, winning the West this year. You're overlooking Wisconsin. I can't believe I'm sitting here trying to make cases for teams that I don't even like. But the point is, it's like we have a lot. The Minnesota game is important. There's a reason why Vegas has all these other teams that I just mentioned pegged ahead of us. It's an uphill climb for us. Hell, I'll take a 6-6 year. I think most of chat would if you had half a brain. Like, what are we doing here? You're telling me that the West is, Nebraska can win the West. Really? If you think Wisconsin, that's what gets me with you, Christian. We've had this debate like a fucking million times about Wisconsin and Nebraska. You think that they're just trash. I think you think that Luke Fickell's just a garbage can. You think
I don't think Fickell's a garbage can.
Last year with them. And now that Tanner Mordecai comes in and plays quarterback, you forget they have Braylon Allen. They have a top 10 defense every year. See, Jesus Christ, you need Jesus. I don't know.
No, listen. See, this is what you do. You twist my words around. You try to say these things that you do these mental gymnastics to try to make your point seem relevant. I never at any point said Graham Mertz was this savior. Graham Jesus Christ Mertz over there, right, performing miracles to get the Wisconsin man all fired up. No, I just said, look, you can always get worse, right? I mean, that can always happen. Now, is it likely that Wisconsin's offense gets worse? No. But, and again, because Dan, we really carried on with this, and then I want to get into Gators Run the East because he actually had a really good point here. But my whole point is, dude, I think some of the fans are right, about this, man, and it's.
Of course you do. You got the fans on your side because I'm hating on the Nebraska because I actually said something they don't want to hear about the Skurs.
how the turntables have turned, motherfucker.
Yeah, I know. Georgia. Holy shit.
Oh man, no, I think I think honestly though, Chris, I mean, I get it because it's like how I deal with my Bulldogs, right? Where I have to be very, I just have to be very. I think like the worse I am on my team, the better they do, right? And it's part of it's like just because I'm so invested with it that I said it earlier. You know, my best takes are not on Georgia. It's kind of like my decisions clouded and biased, and it's easy to do that, right? So, you know, we'll kind of jump into here. What's the biggest what ifs in college football? What if Graham Mertz? All right, great question. What if Graham Mertz is good? No, I'm not kidding. Like, what if Graham Mertz at Florida?
Florida goes 6-6. Florida goes 6-6. I'm sorry, Florida man. I don't know. Okay, fine. I'll say if Graham Mertz is better and actually recruited where he was as a star, they go 7-5. I think I just laughed Christian off the internet or he fell down or I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know what he's doing over there trying to find his seat again. He probably broke the chair. There's a weight limit on those chairs, by the way. I don't know. But no, if Graham Mertz is good, congratulations. You guys had a 6-6 or 7-5 year. He made a bowl game. Christian is obviously going to talk for 5 minutes about how Graham Mertz was the best thing for Wisconsin. It wasn't his fault why they went, 5-7 last year. Just wait. Sorry, Florida man, but here it is. Go ahead, Christian. Answer the question.
No, I mean, I agree with you on that. I mean, if Graham Mertz is like halfway decent this year, if he's good, I think Florida could be a 7-win team, right? Real talk. I think that's kind of the again, about the ceiling for what we're looking at this year. And I think for a lot of Florida,
I'll give you real talk. Graham Mertz is not good, and you guys could enjoy a 4-8 or 5-7 season. Right?
That's why the topic is that's the biggest what ifs in college football, right?
Well, there's your what if.
So,
I will go ahead. Go.
Yeah, go. You go ahead, man. This is a good question. I'm trying to think.
I got one for you guys. What if week 1 Florida State beats LSU? Where would your guys' perception of Florida State? I hear this a lot because it's probably one of the most touchiest topics. Like, seriously, I watch a lot of stuff, obviously, and I probably watch too much. But if LSU gets beat, which LSU is already preseason top 4 in everybody's poll, if Florida State, who's probably between 7 and 9, if Florida State knocks them off week 1, where would you guys be as far as Florida State? Be like, holy shit, they can compete as an ACC school, which is super hard to do with an SEC school, upper echelon team. I'd like to know your guys' thoughts. Christian, what do you think? Me and you battled this FSU LSU thing. I know you're high on LSU, and I don't blame you.
I'm sorry, I was reading some of the chats there. Say that, just paraphrase it for me.
So my big thing is FSU beats LSU in week 1.
Uh-huh.
If that happens, how would you look at them as far as the season plays out from the rest of that? After week 1, you know what I mean? Because LSU has been top 4 in every preseason poll. Any poll I've looked at is LSU is super high, right? Brian Kelly, Jalen Daniels, I get all that. Their defense, but if FSU, who's been sitting there at 8 or 9 in most polls, knocks off LSU week 1, neutral site, how would you look at that for the rest of the season as far as FSU goes, as far as playing through the ACC, and then LSU's got to battle them, obviously got to battle their ass off in the SEC. How important is that game, I guess? What if FSU wins that game?
I say this game could potentially determine someone's playoff, whether someone gets in the playoffs or not. Right now, I think obviously after that game, if Florida State wins that game this year, and they totally could, right? They could definitely do it. But if Florida State wins that game week 1, LSU has to win out, dude. I mean, they have to win out. So if LSU beats Florida State has to win out. But Florida State doesn't have to go through as much of a gauntlet as LSU does, right? So even if, right, I guess I look at it like this in the different scenarios there. To me, from a matchup standpoint, I want LSU to beat them. because I want there to be a rematch at the end of the year.
Right.
Right.
No. Right.
I want LSU to win out, and I want them to play for something meaningful. I want it to mean something the first time they play and the last time they play this year, if they can do it. A lot would have to go right there.
I mean,
but I think this game means everything, right? Because it puts so much more pressure, right, on whoever loses that game. You can't have another off week.
Right.
So
right. And at the end of the year, when they're doing, we all know this. You guys follow. I'm assuming you guys all follow college football. Is that at the end of the year when they do that, the who's going to make the 14 playoff, right? Usually there's a couple teams, one or two, that are cut and dry, and then there's like the debate between like 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. They're going to look back and go, who won that game? Week 1 between FSU and LSU. I think that's why that's like that big what if to me. The only reason why I picked Florida State, not because I'm a big Florida State truther this year. It's more just like how important this game really is. Chris, you see it all the time, right?
Yeah.
Who'd you beat, right? And Florida State is not in the SEC, so they don't get the gauntlet of a schedule that an LSU does, or a Georgia, even with their PUD schedule, in my opinion, this year, or Alabama, or some of those other teams like Ole Miss or Florida. And Florida's got a brutal schedule. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like that game is like so important. That's why I want to answer that like that. Christian, what is your to elaborate on this? Because this is a very good question by Gators Run the East. What is your biggest what ifs? What do you got there? What would you answer that question with?
I've got a really good one with this. I mean, dude, we're still running, man. I mean, we're going to breeze past 3 hours on this show. You good with that, Chris, by the way?
Yeah, I'm good for about another half hour. I'm good for about another half hour. Yeah.
My biggest what ifs in college football would probably be, okay, what if none of the top 4 or 5 teams that we've got pegged right now, what if none of them end up in the playoff?
I think that would be the most interesting year in college football ever.
It would.
I
Because
don't
we're not
ever been any team that's not been preseason top 5 not to make the playoff in the playoff area.
So, by the way, let's take a look at that real quick with the preseason.
I don't think anybody's ever done that. Like, I mean, there's been teams like TCU unrated last year. There was Auburn, and a couple years ago that made it. Man, there's that would be epic level craziness. But you know what, man? It's kind of funny every year that college football goes on, Christian, if you don't mind me talking here, is like crazier things seem to happen year after year after year. If something like that happened, man, that would be nuts. I don't see it this year. I don't see there's any way that Georgia doesn't make a playoff. I don't see there's any way that probably a preseason Big Ten team don't make it, whether it's Ohio State or Michigan.
I mean, yeah, dude, it would be very unlikely. But, like, for example, like, what if, all right, hear me out now. So what if, because I'm just trying to look at this from like a how could this happen standpoint, right? Not that I think this is going to happen, but how could it happen? Say Georgia loses 2 games, right? So South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Could happen. It was 2 games throughout that stretch. Michigan, Michigan, Ohio State, they end up getting in this weird thing where they lose to Penn State or they get upset along the way, kind of like some of you guys want to have happen. Maybe Nebraska beats them or something like that. I don't know, right? Crazy shit happens. Somebody beats these guys, right, and they have 2 losses this year. Could happen especially for Ohio State. Could see it. Maybe.
I think you have 2 Pac-12 teams that probably make it in then.
Well, it's very, very real. Like you said, say Florida State beats LSU and LSU trips up somewhere along the way. Bama, I don't think there's any way in fuck they're going to be number 4.
Thank you.
So again, say Michigan and Ohio State end up losing 2 games this year. Bama ends up losing more than what I think they're going to lose, right? So they end up losing 3 games this year. LSU, same thing. LSU loses 2 games. Then let's say USC is super pissed. They come out, run the table. Penn State, this is their year. Run the table. Yep. Florida State runs the table. Clemson, drop them out. Obviously, you drop Washington out. Texas.
There you go.
Texas at number 11. Say Texas runs the table, right? You could have a really interesting playoff where USC, Penn State, Florida State, and Texas somehow end up in there. Is it likely?
Sorry to interrupt you. I can't believe you just say those teams again.
USC, Penn State, Florida State, and Texas.
You just said no SEC schools in the playoff.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Would that not be the biggest hot take of the year? Right.
Well, it would be very fitting to end the 4-team college football playoff
right.
because it would literally never happen again.
Right. No, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you, but when you just named those teams, I was like, what SEC team is going to throw in there? What SEC, like LSU, Alabama, Georgia? Holy shit! Like there's nobody left. You know what I mean? That is a very interesting. By the way, I thank you, Gators Run the East, for that question. Though it kind of made us think about something and kind of come up with a different scenario on that. Do we think that's going to happen? Hell no! Please, whoever tuned into the show at this point, that's not what we think. But that is a very interesting scenario. Thank you, Christian, for breaking that down. I don't give you enough props. I still think you're overweight, though. What we got?
You're old as shit.
Whoa, Gary Snyder bringing in. Remember 2017 ranked teams got picked. Oh.
Picked off 11 times. Wasn't that 07 season? Wasn't that like when was it App State beat Michigan? Or am I thinking of a different team?
2007. Who would have that been?
Was it App State?
2007. Who would have been 2007? That was the was that like the Gators? Buckeyes were both really good. Who else was really good that year?
So he's talking about, oh shit, dude, this was I think this was Arkansas, right? When they had like McFadden and what's his name?
Holy shit. Okay.
Oh God, what was his name? Peyton Hillis. That's who I'm thinking of. All right. Let's stay here.
That's a good question though, too.
Yeah, App State beat Michigan that year.
That was the whole, what was the black kid they had a quarterback that ran Shoelace? God, that kid was insanely good, and they got beaten that game. I remember watching it live. Somebody's going to drop it in the chat here.
South Carolina defeated Georgia. I told you.
Yeah.
Do it every year. Wonder who the quarterback was around that time.
Well, we got a new guy, Anthony LaFleur here says Nebraska will go to the playoffs next year out of the Big Ten. Holy shit, Anthony! Way to make your Nebraska's Florida's daddy. How much you been drinking tonight, sir?
Nebraska will go to like you said, Nebraska will go to the playoffs next year out of the Big Ten. All right. Well, this isn't this year, so you can't get super pissed off about it. Could you see it?
Oh my God, Florida man! Here we go. You guys can battle it out in the chat. Holy shit! I like this. We got Anthony LaFleur, dude, here sitting there saying Nebraska will go to the playoffs next year. Jesus Christ, dude. How much money do you want to put on that, man? That's a tough one. Holy smokes. This is why I love this show, man. End of the night here, we're having free open chat. They do go to a 12-team playoff. Mike's right.
That's true, yeah.
Holy smokes, man. Still to be the top 12 team at the end of the year is nuts. You basically only got 2 losses. That's it. That's pretty much it. Because there's a shit ton of teams that finish every year with 2 losses. Alabama last year being one of them.
Honestly, so this is going to sound maybe a little controversial here.
Yeah,
Nebraska to go to a playoff, they're going to have
no, not going to happen.
Nebraska to go to a playoff, they're going to have to kind of be like Cincinnati almost, right? You know, like Cincinnati or like one of those schools, right, where they have to have like 2 good years for them to even get into a playoff.
I don't think,
right?
Christian. I see where you're going with this, but we're not like an AAC team. I think the only way Nebraska gets in, they have to like lose a Big Ten title game, and then maybe have like 2 losses, maybe get a look. You know what I mean? Especially next year when they go to the 12th team.
I mean, like, I get that, right? Like, they're not – obviously, you guys are a group of 5 team. I'm not saying it, like, from that standpoint. I guess really from a little different standpoint, what I'm trying to say is –
Ooh.
Well, I guess, like, if Nebraska has 2 losses this year, right?
Yeah, okay, Christian, stop you right there. Okay, if they have 2 losses this year, they won the West then, right?
Chances are, they probably would win the West, yeah.
Okay, would you put them in the the big picture, 12-team playoff this year if it started this year. I know we can't see hypothetically because we don't know where all the other teams rank LSU.
I guess let's fast forward to next year, right? When this is all hypothetical and it's a 12-team playoff, right? Just make it really crazy. Because you got to think. So next year you get all those Pac-12 teams coming over. So you've got what? Washington, Oregon, Utah, right? Is Utah's coming to the Big Ten?
No. Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA. Right now, right? That's right now. I mean, who knows what's going on with the Pac-4? What's left of them?
Yeah. So you've got those teams. Maybe one of them, year one, will do something of note, right? And make a run at it. Okay. Very tough though because they're all losing quarterbacks except for UCLA. Which I'm still not super high on UCLA, even with them returning a 5-star quarterback who might do something this year, might not.
Chip Kelly can't adjust to the Big Ten tile. I had an argument the other day about this.
So not year one, anyways, right? Like maybe give me a couple years in there if they can keep a lot of these pieces. You can get that Dante Moore kid, become a junior, senior. Maybe we see. We'll see something there, right?
Right.
Okay. Children of the Corn's got me right. It's just so much movement, dude. It's so tough. I will say this. I think that really what I'm trying to say here is, with Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, being a two. I mean, what if they're all 2-loss teams? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing.
Nebraska's going to get pushed out, dude. I mean, so it doesn't. And like I said, this is next year. We don't even know what the hell is going to happen this year. Good question, though. I give you props, Anthony, for making us think on it. I love the optimism, though, as a Nebraska man here. We got a couple more questions here before we got to wrap it up tonight, guys.
Nebraska got to recruit like Florida is. Man, this is why I love the Gators run the East thing here, man. Florida is having a pretty good damn recruiting spot right now, right?
Third.
They're number 3.
You know where Nebraska's at? I just looked today, 26th. That's not bad for Nebraska, but Florida, I got to ask you, Florida, man, you guys have had top 12 recruiting classes the last 4 years. I mean, how come you guys can't win a goddamn bowl game or win more than 6 or 7 games, brother?
Well, again, it comes down, like you said, it comes down to roster management, right? I love well, that's what we're going to talk about, right? I mean, it's one of those things. Florida has either had somebody. Florida is, I think, unfortunately, just since Meyer has gone, right? Florida has ran into the buzzsaw of coaches that can either coach really well but can't recruit, or coaches that can recruit but can't really coach well. So, and that's just football in general, right? That's what makes it so difficult,
right,
to be a coach at this level, is because. And you see it, like we said, you see it where you have these group of 5 coaches that come up to this level, and they have to be really good at roster management. We touched on it all the time. Like we touched on Clay Helton down at Georgia Southern. I called you last year before they played Nebraska, Chris, and I said, hey, look.
Right. You did.
Before that game ever kicked off, I said, I think Georgia Southern is going to beat them. They got athletes down there nobody's ever heard of. Clay Helton, is a guy that is kind of overlooked. So it's just one of those things, these group of 5 coaches, when they come to the big time, it's really tough to kind of, because you get access to everything you haven't had access to before, right? The money at this level is different. The players are different, right? Instead of 3 stars or 2 stars or no stars, now you've got access to 4 and 5-star kids. So you're probably trying to get the best recruiting class that you can and not the best class that fits what you want to do, right? So that's what I want to see. The other thing this year is, again, and you got to look at it from this standpoint, if you think these kids aren't going to watch and see what Billy Napier does this year, then you're absolutely mistaken. If Florida struggles early out the gate, they lose to Utah, right? They go on and they look terrible in SEC play, they're going to have some decommitments. This class can fall apart quick, and they can scatter, right? And you'll be left picking up the pieces. Kind of like to Chris's point, Nebraska's ranked 25th. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying I'm playing devil's advocate here. on the other end of it, could Nebraska, you know what I mean, get really hot and start landing some 4 or 5-star pieces? Not saying they're going to land a bunch of 5 stars, but could they land 1 or 2?
I know you make a good point, Christian. I like I said, as much as I want to argue with you, like, and I love doing it, I get all fucking fired up or whatever. But like, no, you're right. I mean, this is a very good question for the Gators guy. I mean, no, we don't recruit like you guys do. You guys are also in the hotbed of recruiting, though. We've bounced around from coach to coach to coach the last. It's about almost like every 3 or 4 years here at Nebraska. Kind of no different with Florida. You guys know what we're going through too. So, like, in a way. I don't think Sunbelt Billy, no offense. I just don't. I think he's a little bit in over his head if you want to talk about Florida. But Christian makes a good point, though. I mean, we're at 25th. If we land a couple more of these guys, this is for next season, by the way, guys, 2024. I'm happy with anything in the top 25. You know, I'm fine with that. I think a lot of it depends on where teams finish. If I'm a high school kid and I'm looking at Nebraska, I'm looking at Florida, I'm looking at Georgia, for example, I want to see where these teams land. You know what I mean? Christian, we know this. You see recruits bounce around all the freaking time. I think that's one of those things where it's just like, if Florida's going to get – Florida is one of those schools, like, they do get a ton of talent. But that's also kind of a knock on you guys because you guys, 2 losing seasons in a row. Nebraska doesn't get quite the talent you guys do overall as far as the Nebraska man over here, but you make a good point. We also can't coach worth the fuck over here either. So – does Matt Rule change that? I think he does, but I think that'll help us into next year. So that's a very good question, Christian. You make a very good. Thank you for the in-depth recruiting type of spiel that you made there because it's a very good point. So, Christian, I got about 10 minutes here, man. I know it's a Friday night, guys. By the way, thank you guys all. Before I said this, before we get off, thank you guys. Please like the video. Please subscribe. If you guys are subscribers, please click on that one link that I keep dropping in and out to win a free PS5 and Xbox X, Series X, jerseys, mini helmets. We're doing a big giveaway once we get to 1,000 subscribers. You guys are the people that help us out here. This is not it's not just being a Christian coming on here, making the channel grow. You guys got to help us out. So I do appreciate the chat. If you guys can talk in the chat, you guys can also like, comment, subscribe, post that video to your friends. Anybody that likes college football. Like I said, we're not about ourselves here. We're doing something very nice here for the community. I love all y'all, even if I disagree with half you clowns in here sometimes. Even the co-host and me don't agree, obviously, clearly, and I get super hyped up. So I do appreciate the support. Anthony, another guy dropping in. Thank you guys for coming around. I appreciate that. I haven't seen you in the chat before. Thank you for coming around. Christian, go ahead and take it away here, though.
Yeah, man. And to follow up on what Chris said, we really appreciate it. I mean, big things in store for the channel. Obviously, we're trying to grow the channel here, and that just comes with time, and getting people to subscribe and just need the follow-up there here. Anthony says, how many non-Power 5 teams would make playoffs? I'm assuming he's obviously still referring to the 12-team playoff format. Maybe two. There's always
Tulane would have made it last year.
Yeah, Tulane would have made it last year. I mean, if you have some crazy year where like
UTSF this year, Texas El Paso.
UTSA.
Yes, there you go. They're a team. By the way, they have to play. I think they have to play each other. That's another team. Sorry, Christian,
you're good
on that, but yep. No, go ahead.
Yeah, you're all good. That's my dad's alma mater, by the way. UTSA, University of Texas at San Antonio. Yeah, Roadrunners. They didn't even have a football team until I think it was 2013, 2014.
Pretty new, but man, they got a little bit of talent down there. Kind of those weird teams that you don't hear enough about. And you see the logo, like the Roadrunners. I love their helmet, by the way. I'm gonna get one of those mini helmets back behind me. I got a fucking boatload of them above that. You can't see it on my screen tonight, but yeah.
Dude, that's cool. Yeah, I could see it. Like I said, one, maybe two. Mm-hmm. What coach in 2023 gets fired again? I think there's the obvious ones there. Neil Brown at West Virginia.
Who's the kid at Missouri? The guy I can never pronounce his name.
Eli Drinkowitz.
Yes. Yep. I think if he doesn't go 6-6, they don't make a bowl game. I think he's gone. 100%.
There's some other names out there too.
I will say, I'll go on a limb and say, hold on here. This is going to be interesting. Oh my God. Your boy won a national title. He's at Texas A&M right now. You know who I'm talking about.
Jimbo. Yeah.
But they have to pay him $72 million if they opt out of this year. would you if they go 5-7, not getting a bowl game, would you do it? Jimbo Fisher. I couldn't think of his name.
Absolutely. You know what they paid Johnny Manziel? Well, they didn't pay him $72 million. Obviously, he wouldn't probably ever went to the NFL.
Jimbo's thing if they let him go after this year.
Yeah, but they got money down there, dude. They would pay that in a heartbeat if he has another 5-7 wins.
Yeah, but that's every woman you've ever beat on the street. I mean, goddamn, man, come on,
dude. You guys, all right? Listen, you guys paid a coach $7 million, not the coach one game.
Oh, I know they could have brought
one game.
Yeah, they could have brought me in.
So, I mean, if a fan base wants you out that bad, you're going to be out. I know it sounds crazy. You're going to think I'm probably delusional for this. Billy Napier.
No.
Come on, dude. Listen, if is not high as we are on Florida, and it's not even to slight Florida. I think Florida will be good. It's all cyclical in college football. Florida's times do, kind of like Tennessee's times do. It's coming back around. But if for whatever reason Florida stumbles out the gate this year and they really, they shit the bed and they regress, dude, you're going to tell me right now you don't see a scenario where he could get fired?
I have a hard time believing that. I'm not saying that he doesn't. I've been on this show a bazillion times, Florida man, saying that Billy Napier doesn't have a effing clue what the hell he's doing. I believe that 100%. I think he's in over his head. But he's bringing in this crazy good recruiting class with DJ Lagway. Is that his name, Christian? The top quarterback, the kid that's supposed to start for him next year as a freshman. I just don't know how you fire a guy because you lose a lot of talent and this top, 3 class. I don't know, even if they suck this year and go 4-8, which I have them right around that, pegged around that. I don't know how they let him go. I don't. That's where I'm at because I think the guy can recruit, and I think Florida kind of recruits itself because of the location. Florida's such a touchy topic to talk about. I don't think he's on the hot seat. I don't, even if they shit the bed this year. And I don't, really, what do you peg Florida at this year? What if he goes 7-5, I think that is the best they could do this year. 6-6, God, you guys make a bowl game. That's great. They've had 2 losing seasons in a row when you're Florida. I just don't see, Christian, where it goes. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, first of all, he says I could see Kirby Smart getting fired. His whole point to this is, the drama coming to Georgia. He's talking about the driving incidents. Listen, I think you could have half the team go out tomorrow.
No.
And literally half the team could go out tomorrow and get arrested. Kirby would still have a job.
No, Kirby Smart could do he could walk on water right now, dude. Don't matter.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's Nick Saban, but he's got Nick Saban-like job tenure right now.
But no.
Nick Saban,
I actually think, honestly, because Georgia hates Alabama so much and all the shit in the past, I think Kirby Smart could go walk on the street and pull the trigger on somebody and be on national news, and he's still the head coach tomorrow. I don't think it matters. Kirby Smart's a savior over there.
Absolutely.
And I'm not even a Georgia fan, but Nick Saban could do, or Nick Saban, Kirby Smart could do whatever he wanted to do right now.
This is part of the problem, right? Because it's the offseason hype, 7-5 or 8-4. If the defense isn't as elite as you think it is, and Graham Mertz isn't the savior you think he is, let me just tell you right now, 5 wins looks a lot more realistic than 7. And let me just tell you right now, if you're already at 7, you're probably thinking 8. You're 3 wins off. You fail to make a bowl game. How do you not draw parallels to the Auburn situation? You think Auburn came? I'll tell you right now. Wow. Auburn came into that.
Yep.
Yeah, Auburn came into last year with Brian Harsin, another Group of 5 coach, right at Boise State. They came over there. Allegations started getting thrown around. A lot of people were saying very similar things, and they had a lot of expectations. And you saw what happened as the season progressed on. Guess what happened?
Right.
Rumblings started getting more and more. The pressure started getting more and more. And then guess what? He got fired. What was it, halfway through the season? Because they realized it just wasn't going to be a good fit.
Yep.
It's not, look, we don't hate it, right? But it's just, we can talk about this till we're blue in the face.
Yep.
I think the great part about all these teams we talk about, Nebraska, Florida, any of these teams. And again, it's not like we're, our own teams, we're not on here saying, I'm not coming out here saying Georgia's going to 3-peat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what.
And you could.
Yeah. Hell, I'm not even saying Georgia's going to win the SEC this year, right? Or go to the playoff, right? And that's basically what you're doing. You're saying, hey, we were 6-7 last year. We had some really weird losses. We barely beat a 1-11 USF team last year. We lost to Vandy, right? Yes, you did play Georgia really, really close up until about the third quarter, and then that's when Georgia started really pulling away. I get all that. I get it, right? But we've still got a long way to go, right? And you've still got Graham Mertz as a quarterback. Right, go look at what he did at Wisconsin, right? In a league that was not as hard to win. He didn't even win it last year.
Terrible.
So what is he going to do in the SEC?
Yep. I know, you're right. I'll leave you at that. I mean, I think Christian said it best there, guys. We're coming up on the 3-hour mark here. If you guys have any quick questions that we can answer, like I said, me and Christian don't come on there sitting here acting like we know everything, but we do follow a lot of college football. I do appreciate the show tonight. It was a good show. Sometimes it is watchable, sometimes it's not. You guys got any other questions here? We're gonna wrap it up tonight. You guys, by the way, guys, if you're drinking, be safe out there. Be careful. Keep it real. Don't kill the Iowa man with the Nebraska lingo. I mean, don't go rock around downtown Lincoln here talking about how Nebraska is going to go 11-1. I mean, I love it, but you might get punched in the face.
I'll say this: Gators, come back next week.
Yeah, buddy.
Let's put our mutual disagreements aside, right? And let's put our hatred towards something that needs to be done, and that's Colorado.
Nobody's hating on you, Gators, man. I mean, I said they're going freaking 4-8 this year. I mean, Vegas has got you guys pegged at 4.5. Like, come on, man. That's the betting public, by the way. Come on. I'm right there. I'm right there with them, man. It's all right, Gators. You know what, Gators? You know what? Do me a favor, buddy. Bring your friends in if you got friends. I know Christian doesn't, but I do. Bring your friends in, and we'll debate. We'll have a good debate, man. We're all about the chat here, man. That's what's awesome with the show. We don't really have a script. We kind of go off of what you guys do. So bring your boys in here, subscribe, get a chance to win that PS5. I hate to send to Florida man a free PS5 or an Xbox Series X, but hey, here we are. Giving you shit, buddy. No, I appreciate the show. I appreciate the chat. Appreciate the good questions tonight, guys. Christian, I appreciate you for me bearing your ass in the best defense of all time. I know you got fucking ran over like a train. But hey, here we are.
Well, listen, I don't think that's even remotely close. I think even Gators will tell you, because they had to play, that Elite 21 defense, and it just helps his point.
62-44.
Let's go, sir.
See you
All
guys.
right, guys. We'll be back next week on Wednesday at 8 o'clock.